It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Alex Lindsay's here, Andy Ihnatko, and it's the triumphant return of Jason Snell, iPad's in hand. We're going to talk about all the new stuff, macOS Ventura, iPadOS 16.1, new watchOS, new Apple TVs, new iPads, a whole lot coming up next on MacBreak Weekly. You don't want to miss it.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 841, recorded Tuesday, October 25th, 2022. A deck of crackers. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by ZocDoc. With ZocDoc, you can find the right doctor for you in your network and in your neighborhood. Go to ZocDoc.com/MacBreak and download the ZocDoc app for free. Start your search for a top-rated doctor, many available within 24 hours. And by 8 Sleep. Good sleep is the ultimate game changer, and the pod is the ultimate sleep machine. Go to 8sleep.com/MacBreak to check out the pod and save $150 at checkout. 8 Sleep currently ships within the U.S., Canada, the U.K., and select countries in the EU and Australia. And by the new and recently updated TriCaster 2 Elite by NewTek, the most complete live production system on the planet. There's a TriCaster for every production, including yours. Visit go.newtek.com/twit-tv for an interactive guide that can tell you which TriCaster is right for you. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news. There's actually a staggeringly large amount of Apple news today. We welcome back to our shores Jason Snell, who was off on assignment.
I was in I can't disclose where I was, but it was a very large ring-shaped building.
Really? You drove all the way down to Cupertino.
Down the 280, yep.
Okay. Hey, cool. Well, I want to know what you found out. We'll get to that in a second. But first, let's also welcome Andy Ihnatko from WGBH in Boston and soon to be revealed, Ihnatko.com.
The Froyo in Cupertino, it's worth the drive. It was worth the flight from the East Coast. So I understand very much why.
Oh, you show off.
You decided to go down there. The Froyo is good, but the range of toppings that are available.
I do like your Canadian teapot hat, however. I think
this is my Pixar RenderMan walking teapot hat.
Yeah, I feel like it's both a tribute to Pierre Trudeau and the Amiga in one.
As long as you say Amiga, not Amico.
Amico. Our amigo up north of the border. Yes. And from officehours.global and 090.media, Alex Lindsay.
Morning.
I feel like I should say our champ yesterday who won $30,000 on Double Jeopardy, and our returning champ, because that's you're in the returning
yeah,
champ
exactly.
desk. I'm watching too much Jeopardy lately. Hello, Alex. Good to see you.
Good morning.
And you have the Rishi Sunak Memorial Ember Cup.
I have a couple of them.
Yeah, nice.
It was funny. My mother got them for me. Actually, she was like, she bought me the little one. I was like, but I really wanted the big one. Like, I didn't say it that way. I was like, but there's two of them, and then she sent me the other one the next time.
But you didn't get the tall one.
So I use them. No, it's
Snell has the clay one.
I got it too. Yeah. And then Andy's got a plastic bottle. So
mine's
Andy
at home.
The man of the people.
Mine's at home.
So it's the thing is I'm on for 2 hours every morning. So there's hour one and hour two.
You need it,
and it stays.
And it keeps the coffee warm.
I don't get up. I don't stand up. Yeah. So.
And it is in fact a staggering lack of self-awareness you're showing by using that cup. That was that they accused the new Prime Minister of Great Britain of Rishi Sunak a couple of years ago when he was shown as Chancellor of the Exchequer preparing his economic update statement in his offices with shocking a 180-pound ember mug on his desk.
His tie costs more than that. Come on.
I think so.
But doesn't that indicate like he is a man of the people? The idea of he drinks so much coffee to get himself through all the work he does during the day that he needs to keep the coffee warm, as opposed to I've had a special bronze and brass button installed on my desk that beckons manservants to bring me Diet Cokes upon a silver platter.
Good point. Mm-hmm. There are some who have that. Given what I've heard about the the Joe at number 10, he probably should keep that coffee mug around. Churchill was always complaining how cold the coffee was. I don't know.
Coffee.
Coffee.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah,
a whole bunch of people are like, tea.
Coffee. Is there shit in that tea? Okay, wow, there's so much to talk about. Yesterday, the arrival, long heralded, finally, of macOS, Ventura? I think.
Ventura. It is.
And then iPadOS 16.1. And then they're at a step now. I think it's Apple Watch 9.01. And I'm very confused by the whole thing. I have to say, I'm not thrilled about the new system preference pane, aka now the control panel. What do you think?
System settings.
System settings. Yeah.
You know what? I'm totally into it now. It was a little bit off-putting, but the thing is, it is more natural for me to look for when we're looking for what are my network settings, what is Ethernet. My first think is, hey, look, there's the word. It's called network settings. I'm going to go there, as opposed to here is a grid of fun little, placemat icons that might kind of have something to do with the network. So yeah, I'm into it. I don't know what it does for accessibility. I assume it's a good thing, but I trust other people to tell me things about that. But yeah, I mean, most of the switches that I've been experiencing on Ventura, now that I'm using it, I was going to say 24 hours a day, but I can say 24 hours in the past day, have been positive. I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think system settings is bad. I agree with Andy. It's a little like a house that's got a new coat of paint on it that it really needed, but you go inside and it's still the Winchester Mystery House inside. It is system preferences was really bad and made no sense, and they kept sticking things onto it, and it is literally an interface for macOS 10.0, right? Like, it is very old. It's 20 plus years old. So getting something that's more iPad and iPhone it's a good decision, right? It's a really good decision. The problem is everything else, which is organizationally, I think they spent all the time developing this to get it to move over into Swift UI and to get this iPhone and iPad style interface on it. But what they didn't do is actually organize anything. And so, yes, if you click on network, you can get to network things, but there are lots of things in weird places where they don't belong. If you look at the scrolling list, it's like almost 36 items in there. They're not organized in any way. They're grouped together, but at no point can you discern what the groups mean. Within the groups, they're not organized in any way. Some of them, you click on them and it's a long scrolling list. Sometimes there's a menu that you have to click on and then you go another level down, at which point you actually can't see what level you're on. Are you on the top level or one level down? Like, it is, I would say in my review, what I said is basically, this is an incomplete grade. See me after class. You got to put more work into it, because while they gave it a facelift, at this point, really, the only advice I can give people is use the search box, because that's the only way to find anything.
It's kind of been that way for a while, though. I mean, I've been doing that for a while with the search box. But.
Yeah, and searching is good, and the searching is all there. But like, what are we doing here? Why is there an index and a list of things at all if all anybody really should do is search? I mean, they could add stuff like you could be able to, you could favorite stuff or show recent places you've been. Those would be ways that you could make it maybe more friendly. The search is fine, but like, I don't know why we have a list of 36 items if you can't really use it and you just need to search. So I think they need to do a rethink there.
It mirrors the iPhone, really, right? So is the theory that you're used to it, finding stuff in this mishmash, this pile of settings we put together for the iPhone. So congratulations, now you got it on the Mac.
Well, I think what it got me to think is they actually need to reorganize their settings everywhere. They really do. There's lots of stuff that doesn't make sense. They make things, they move things around, but the truth is what happens is you release an operating system every year and it's got new features, and it's not a high priority, but you have to put settings somewhere. So you stick it somewhere and you move on. And then the next year you do that and you do that again. And on macOS, they've done that for 22 years. And you end up with this incredibly weird settings in weird places and the settings are inconsistent. Like they have this new feature called Stage Manager on the Mac that's a window arranging thing, and its settings live right next to Mission Control, which kind of makes sense. But the Mission Control settings are kind of like out in the open, and the Stage Manager settings, you have to click a button that brings up a pop-up window where you put those settings in. And it's like, why is it like that? Why is it so inconsistent? There's no answer. And like, I get why it happens, which is they don't care. Every year they just stick it somewhere, but somebody's got to fix it.
If you didn't know system settings existed, you probably would never find out, right? Because it's hidden in a weird place.
Just search for it, right? Like they should make the whole interface at this point just a big search box that says, tell me what you would like to do, because
it's also frustrating that this is so iOS that it can't be expanded. It can be expanded down, but not to the right.
Yeah. Every Mac has a widescreen display, and yet you can't scroll. They've got this multi-level hierarchy, but you can't ever see it because they've decided to make it a little box of a window still, even though every Mac has a wider screen, which doesn't make sense.
They're acting like we're on an iPhone screen, not on a Mac screen.
And the screenshot that you showed in the video version is also a great example of
from your article.
How do you turn services or the plugins for Photos books on and off? And the answer is go to privacy and security. Sure. Scroll past every single privacy and security setting possible to the very bottom where there's a section called Others, and it says extensions and profiles. They're down there. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. And you would never know that.
Well, especially because there's no scroll bar. It isn't apparent that you can scroll this. So I know a number of people didn't know there was more. Now, of course, we're going to get used to it. A lot of the complaint is just because it's not like it used to be.
And that's like I said, I think it's okay that it looks like iOS and iPadOS. A lot of times when people hear me criticizing, they're like, you just don't like how it looks. I'm like, I actually think it's a good move to make it look like this. They had an opportunity here to touch this thing for the first time in 22 years. And one of the big problems with system preferences is you can't find anything. And they put in all this effort to make this new app, and you still can't find anything. And that's the part that makes me angry, is like, I hope they use this as a base on which to build and structure this thing better over time. And I understand that maybe they only really had the time, the team working on this only really had the time to get it over into the new house, and now they have to remodel the inside. I hope they do that, though, because it needs it.
Andy, go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No. I was just going to add to what Jason's saying, that, there are always two different factors when you create a really big change to a user interface like this, and Stage Manager is the same way. There's one that it's going to take a while for people to get used to, that this is not working the way that the way that it used to. There's also just learning how it works. And then the third thing is, this is the first live fire exercise of this with a wide, real human audience. And I'm very, very certain, or maybe less certain than hopeful, that this follows the same arc as normal user interface improvements of this kind, where they will watch, they will listen, they will get feedback, they're reading every comment, and they're figuring out how to do things better. And settings, to be fair, is, man, I don't know a single piece of hardware where settings is not in some way a huge mess. Like across multiple platforms, I want to connect this Bluetooth device, that this device, be it a streaming box, be it a laptop, be it a phone, has already been introduced to. Where do I find that? Oh, well, gee, here's audio settings. No, it's not audio settings. Okay, well, is it in wireless networking? Is it in hardware? Is it in accessories? And so many different places, different devices just put it into different places, and you just simply throw up your hands and you just learn that 1 + 1 = 3 in this instance, and that's what gets you through.
Yeah, one of the wireless settings is funny. You mentioned that, Andy, because one of the examples that I use is in the Wi-Fi settings in the network pane. There's this button called Advanced, and it's like, well, what is that? What does that mean? And if you click it, it's actually the list of all of the known Wi-Fi stations that it's seen that you can remove if you want, and choose whether you want to auto log in. It used to be at the top level, and now it's hidden, but it's hidden behind this button called Advanced, which is like, what is that? It might as well just say more stuff. And then at the bottom below this huge list, there actually are a couple advanced settings that shows you like the MAC address and stuff like that. And it's just like, good luck finding it. And even if you search for it, you're not really going to find it. I mean, again, it's a work in progress, and this is going to be what I say about Stage Manager too, but in a lot of this, the question is not like a work in progress is not fundamentally bad. It's not great, but it's not fundamentally bad. The challenge is that historically, Apple has had a lot of features that they've rolled out and then treated like they're done. And then they walk away for a year or 2 or 3 or forever. And the problem with these features is if they walk away, they're walking away from something that's not very good. And I think that's a mistake. So we'll see.
By the way, they did know, Andy, because that's one of the howls we heard throughout the entire public beta was, what is this? And people saying, oh, I'm sure it'll be fixed by the time it comes out. And it wasn't.
And at some point, I think you get into a point where it just pencils down. we don't know exactly where we're going with this.
Maybe that's what happened. They ran out.
They focused on the bugs.
Yeah.
That's what they ended up doing is remember that Twitter thread that was like in June or July that was just all the weird display bugs and system settings? Yeah. All of those are fixed. I mean, somebody literally sat there and went through that thread and fixed, maybe even one person, and fixed every single bug in that list. So the bugs are gone largely, and that's good, but clearly that's what they spent their summer doing is make it functional. And it is functional. It's just not very good.
And the problem is that they have, because of the way that they're tying together the iPad and iOS and macOS, they can't let them sever very far. So you've just released a bunch of stuff. You have to get it out. Like you have to. Yeah. They can't just say, oh, we'll wait another month. They have to put it out there. And I think I bet we'll see some upgrades in the next little bit of time.
I hope so.
Let me read you a blog post from a guy, Ricardo Mori, that I read, and that kind of resonated with me. The title was a little link baity. My next Mac might be the last. But let me read you what he actually says. Before you think I'm going to say things like Apple can't innovate anymore again. No, it's not that. I actually quite like what most of Apple's doing with the Mac hardware-wise. The problem is I just can't stand the software anymore. The problem is, and this is, I think, this to me crystallized it a little bit, there's a troubling ungluing going on between Mac hardware and Mac OS. A substantial difference in quality between the two components that doesn't make me feel what I used to feel in previous versions of Mac OS X, seamless integration. And he says it stems from Apple's desire to simplify the things for themselves architecture-wise. Apple Silicon has been a very good success, right? But the terrible decision, in my view, he says, has been to want to bring the iOS look and feel to the Mac. It's unnecessary. It's broken many tried and true Mac interface guidelines and has delivered a massive blow to the whole operating system's identity. Yes? No? Disagree? Agree?
I think that Apple's going a little bit aggressive in that direction. I agree. I don't think it's as bad as that editorial would make it out to be, because honestly, macOS has been looking very, very frumpy for a long time, where if you've been using Linux distros and you see exactly how interesting and innovative, I don't want to use the word innovative, but how interesting and modern a user interface can look without looking like you're just trying to make an interactive art piece instead of a functional piece of productivity software. And when you see that, oh God, we're still dealing with the fact that we don't know if things scroll or not because Johnny Ive decided that little pill was just too obstructive, and it would send him to his fainting couch every time a scroll bar appeared inside a window. On the other hand, it's if Apple does the smart play, which is to think about things that work really well on iOS, particularly on iPadOS, and figure out how can we make things less cluttered on the Mac desktop that way? How can we make app switching so that it is so natural to navigate between apps that you don't wind up with just this leaf pile of windows that you have to keep burying through in order to discover? Are there ways that we can take things like the AI enhanced app launchers where I've app launchers where I no longer necessarily have to care about where I put app icons on my home screen on my phone, because that little deck of here are 5 apps that we think you want to use right now, and 9 times out of 10 it's right up there. Wouldn't it be great if we could do that in a Mac environment? Wouldn't it be great if it could just figure out that, oh well, he tends to want to have that when he's writing a show doc, he tends to want to have the reader app on deck, someplace handy, but he wants his Google Docs doc to be the primary window. Wouldn't it be great if we weren't still stuck in 1998, where windows are just things that get splattered onto a screen, and then good luck to you to try to make mess of that. And I think that taking cues from iOS and iPhone and iPadOS is a good direction for that. So long as they're not trying to make the Mac into a $2,000 iPhone, I'm going to be patient and on board with it.
People are always going to be upset with changes. So I acknowledge that. And, maybe they'll back off on this. The difference between this and Stage Manager is you don't have to use Stage Manager, but everybody has to use preferences. Yeah. In fact, it's the system settings that probably the first thing you see when you first boot into Ventura. The first thing you're going to do is go to settings.
And you interact with them at the time that is most stressful for you, right? It's when you need help, you need to fix something that's broken, something's not working right, you need to change something about your computer. So it should be something that I think more care is taken.
Maybe get a graduate student just to write a paper, like here's a pile of things we have to have settings for. Let's come up with a theme, a scheme of organization. Something.
Remember early days of the web, there were, and first decade, let's say, there were I taught a class at UC Berkeley that we used the book Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug, and it's all about information architecture, right?
Yeah.
And it feels like what somebody at Apple needs to do, or they could get a freelancer to do, or whatever, is have somebody actually look at every single setting on the Mac and honestly on the iPad and the iPhone and organize them in ways that make sense, in chunks that make sense, that there's a natural flow because not everybody is comfortable searching or knows what to search for. And so, and maybe they need to think about a simplified settings app that has an advanced mode and they keep it simple for most of their users. But to Andy's point, I think, look, I mean, there are a lot of people who've been using the Mac a long time who don't want it to change and don't like this direction it's going, and that's okay. And Apple definitely has software issues, but I think Andy's point is right, and also let's throw into it, more people use the iPhone than use the Mac. The potential for growth in the Mac is coming from people who are familiar with Apple via the iPhone, and so having a family similarity there is good. Also, I would argue the more crossover between the iPhone and the iPad and the Mac is good for the Mac, because remember in the 2010s when they would roll out brand new features for the iPad and the iPhone, and the Mac either wouldn't get it or would get a really broken version of it that would never be improved. Like, that doesn't happen anymore, and the reason is Apple has pushed them together. You could overdo it, and they have lots of other issues, but I don't think that the other platforms are the problem.
All right.
And I think they're continuing to pull them all together so that we all have one experience across all of these things. You open them up and they're all going to be the same, and they're all going to be similar. And right now we're still in that kind of still trying to figure out how to get them all to look and work together. Yeah. But the fact that they're all starting to look the same and they're all working together with continuity, with all the other things that are adding, is really interesting. But it's going to take work to get it all pulled together. But I really like the fluidity one. You can see it coming, just not quite there yet.
There is a cautionary tale here. Microsoft stumbled horribly when they decided to take Windows 7, and make it a more tablet-y interface with Windows 8, and it was a horrific failure, which they had to backtrack on. Eventually cleaned up.
They did it over a very short period of time.
They
Apple's
did one upgrade.
Been doing this for a decade.
Yeah.
Like it's not, Apple's been slowly adding little bits and little jump, and then we all absorb it, and then we do another jump and we all absorb it. But it's been happening for over a decade.
The problem Microsoft had with Windows 8, in my opinion, was not so much the change, but it was unpredictable and you couldn't figure out where things were. They hid stuff. And that's always a risky thing to do. In fact, like hiding Stage Manager, right? Yeah. It's off by default, right? It's not on.
Yeah. It's off by default.
Is that, do you think they're maybe less than proud of their new child? Andy?
Oh, Spaces isn't on by default either.
Well,
right?
that's true. None of those organization things are they? Yeah. Really? Yeah.
I think they appreciate that. Oh my God, if they just drop somebody into Stage Manager, the confusion, the howls, the tech support questions. How do I downgrade back to the previous version? Because it's something where you have to opt in, you have to volunteer for this experience, and so I think that was very, very smart. What I was though very, very surprised that that if you enabled it, you weren't immediately taken to a beautiful little inline Apple produced presentation about here's the theory behind it, here's how things move in and out. I've been, again, with all 24 hours of extended experience, I played with the betas, but again, I only have one Mac and one iPad that could use Stage Manager, so there's no way I was installing betas on those things. But it's the confusion for me is at a lower ebb than I thought it was going to be, and the possibilities that I'm seeing about how this could keep my desktop cleaner, I'm encouraged by what I see. I don't think I know about it enough to like it yet, but yeah, if you just drop me into this and suddenly there is this deck of crackers on the left side of my screen and apps, I keep switching command tabbing from one app to another, and they just simply disappear from the screen. I would not want that to happen on a deadline day.
It does kind of look like a deck of crackers now that you mention it.
Cracker Manager now.
It's Cracker Manager.
It's like you're at your aunt's house, and there's that plate of crackers that has little slices of pepperoni on it, and that's what I thought.
Yeah, Stage Manager. I mean, I've been using Stage Manager this summer, and I love the idea, because I think the idea is, it's very rare. A Mac user, let's say the average Mac user has like 8 windows open at once. They're probably not using all 8, right? They're probably only using a couple, 2, 3 of those. And then maybe there's another task where they're using another 2, 3 of them. And then there are another couple where they're individual. And the idea is you decrease your cognitive load by having that stuff kind of be off, out of view, just in the little crackers on the side when it doesn't matter.
So it's like they're like canapes. They have little, they're little things on top.
A little dollop of every window is a dollop of something on top.
Yeah, there's a pimento loaf and maybe some cheese in a can.
And they are actually little piles of things, as Apple describes them. So.
The problem is a canopy interface.
So the problem with Stage Manager on the Mac right now is it does feel unfinished. And Andy has already hit on some of the issues, which is there are gestures and keyboard shortcuts to move around in spaces and full screen mode, and yet a lot of those are missing from Stage Manager. And I just want to be able to swipe and move between stages, and instead it's like, well, no, you need to command tab to an app that's in a different stage, and then it moves. And then the other, I think, sin that it commits is often I am clicking on an interface element for a link or to another web page or something like that, and it just moves me to a different stage with a Safari window in it, and it's not what I want. And there's no keyboard shortcut that I can detect to say, no, open it here. And I realize maybe there's some API stuff that they're working on with third-party developers, but the bottom line is I found myself spending more time managing where my windows went than I was ever going to save. And for anything that's claiming to save me time, if the net of managing the thing is more than the time it's saving me, it's gone. Like I turned it off, because it's like I am spending way more time moving windows around on my screen, and my job is not to move windows around on my screen.
I have a terrible confession to make. I'm sitting there with my brand new M2 MacBook Air on my lap, watching with glee as the Chicago Bears defeated the Pats on Monday Night Football, thinking I really should try this Stage Manager thing. I really should. I'm going to need to talk about it tomorrow. And I just couldn't bring myself to turn it on. I had it on the iPad. I had the public beta, and so I kind of knew what I was missing. Problem is I have, and I bet you most people now have, a sensible way of operating on both the iPad and the Mac with using workspaces and swiping, right and left and stuff. And it just all makes sense to me. I don't feel the need for it. Maybe it makes more sense on the iPad, but I really don't feel a need for it on a Mac.
Yeah. I'm not so much into it on the iPad. Maybe it's because after
there's less
so
space, for one thing.
There's less space, and also when things start to overlap, that's a big problem. Even on my 12.9 inch iPad Pro, that's a big problem. Having to I actually like slide over. I like what they've done with it in previous editions, because it's very, very easy to do. what things are very, very appropriate for what I do on the iPad.
Everything's
where
full
you're
screen,
saying,
and I just and if I need if I need a little thing, I can open it up and.
Yeah, I think that tiling, tiling Windows got off to a bad start with Windows 1.0. Let's acknowledge that. Let's put that. Let's say that. But the thing is, there are times when on smaller screens, the ability to say 2/3 of the screen is for the thing I'm writing, 1/3 of the screen is for a message, a Slack that I need to keep an eye on, or even just some information I need to copy from. And I don't have to worry about dragging something such that something is now being covered by something else. So it wasn't really intuitive for me. I'm keeping it on as a rite of passage, but when I'm actually doing stuff on the iPad, I switch it off and switch back to the old way because I haven't figured it out.
You did a good full review of Ventura on 6colors.com, Jason.
Yep. Thank you.
You also, Andrew Cunningham taking over from Syracuse.
John Syracuse, yeah.
Did his, whatever it is, 38-page.
Yeah, some of us choose to write 5,000, 6,000 words, and some of us have a 20,000 word thrust upon us.
I remember Syracuse was always just like
the
next day after he filed, just like a zombie. It was like the worst.
Oh yeah, no, and I think Jason can attest to this. Like we would go out to dinner about once a month or so, and for like 3 months beforehand, that's all the table conversation would be of like, but the thing is, like, it's supposed to be paging, but it's not paging, and you think it's paging. It's trying to use, but they decided to do their own custom version of this, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's sometimes it is fun seeing the sausage being made, as long as you're not the person making the sausage.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, it's Ventura I find generally inoffensive. There are some good things and some bad things. The incomplete features. Some OS updates are harmful, right? Where they change your interface out from under you, and you feel really bad about it, and you're like, where's my stuff? Or it really breaks compatibility. And we've had a few of those in macOS updates recently. This is not one of those. It feels very much like the last OS, except with a few new features. Some of those features are really good. Like, reason to update to this is, do you have a family with whom you would like to share photos in a single library across iOS, iPadOS, and macOS in the Photos app with shared photos? It is there, and it's great, and it's reason enough just for that. Also, continuity camera. Do you complain about the quality of your webcam? By the way, we should say you're using continuity camera right now for those of you watching video. Reveal the video version of this.
This is your iPhone 14?
Yeah, this is an iPhone 14 Pro.
And you're on the wide-angle lens.
And I am on the wide lens because that's the highest. They call it the main camera now, right?
Oh, it's not the ultra wide. It's
the ultra wide is lower quality, and also you can turn center stage on and use it, and then your camera is just as good as
a potato. Yeah,
it's just the same as if you were using the center stage on the studio display. Right. But it's got portrait mode in it, and it's all.
And that, wait a minute, let's see that. So you turn the blur on the background. That looks. What do you think, Alex? You king of keying.
It looks pretty good.
Looks pretty good, doesn't it?
His hair is a lot better.
His hair is not bleeding.
This is iPhone portrait mode for those who are watching the video version, which means it's got the multiple cameras and the LiDAR sensor to make a very smart matte instead of a dumb matte like a fake portrait mode would be. And they got the studio light. Look at me, I'm so pretty.
That looks good.
And all of that will work on that really good camera, or honestly, if you've got an iPhone 13 or 12 or 11 or 10,
they're all much better than the laptop.
It's better than your webcam. And yes, you can use center stage.
It's zooming into your eyes.
Look into his
blue. Get sucked into those.
It's not so good. This is a better camera. So
on the plus side, you do look like one of those like old timey like studio glamour like movie stars.
It looks pretty damn good.
You can't see any of the details on your face quite so much.
Yeah, you look like Rita Hayworth. It's fantastic.
Yes, there you go.
So
I wanted, but
that is not as good. You're right, but it's a lot.
You're about to be assumed bodily into
So that's a great feature, other than the fact that you have to find a mount for it. Belkin is working on mounts for laptops. I think it's out now, and they're working on one for desktops as well. That's actually what I'm using here, but it's not ready yet.
Camo or eCam? How does it compare to those?
Yeah, so it is way better than Camo, which is a third-party app that lets you use your iPhone camera as a webcam on your Mac because of the home field advantage, right? Because Apple's the platform owner. They have baked this in. Camo, you have to open your iPhone up. You've got to launch the Camo app. Right. You've got to stick it up. You try not to touch it somewhere somewhere where the camo app goes away, and then the screen stays on with the camo app on it as you use it, and so it uses more battery. And Apple's thing, like literally, if your phone is near, it
doesn't need to be connected, right? It could be Wi-Fi.
No, this is wireless.
Wow.
It's a continuity feature, and it is automatic, and there's no interface for it on the iPhone. You just say, I want to use it, and it starts working.
Nice.
So there's none of that like open an app. The downside is Apple thinks that cameras don't need settings other than center stage on off and portrait mode on off. And it's too bad because camo's one of people watching the video version of this will know I have a very wide angle here, wider than it needs to be. And that's because I can't crop this image.
Yeah,
whereas
Camo
with
lets you
Camo,
zoom. Yeah.
I can make it a little bit closer. The Opal camera that I've been using, you can zoom in a little bit. Yeah. And Apple, it's too bad Apple doesn't put that in the UI. That would be a feature request I would make is if you don't want to do it, Apple, let third-party developers do it, because it would be really nice if I could take continuity camera and set a crop or a camera move or something like that. And right now, you can't do any of that.
Have you tried the webcam settings third-party app with it? I wonder if it.
Shouldn't work.
It's really old. Yeah, there'll need to be a new one.
Okay.
But I hope that will happen, because keep in mind this is actually 48 megapixel camera. Like I can crop it with no loss in quality.
Right.
I am positive of that. I would like to be able to do that manually. I get that that's a kind of a power user feature, but what are we doing here?
Well, you're setting 1080p from a 4K camera, so you could easily do that and still preserve the exact same quality.
Totally.
That's it. Well, I want to take a little break. I want to talk more about Ventura. But yeah, that's impressive. That's it. And I have to say, the fact that it's just there and on, and if you've got an iPhone nearby, it works.
Use your old iPhone if it's in a drawer somewhere, as long as it's 10, I think 10 or later.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's 11 or later. But your last iPhone, if it's not being used, you have a good webcam in a drawer. Just update it to the latest OS, and it will be a very good webcam for your Mac.
And you suggest the 1X camera as the best one?
Yeah, I mean, otherwise you're basically using center stage.
Can you use the front-facing camera?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so you have to use the back camera.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. All right.
Wouldn't it be awesome if you could use the front camera and also use this front screen as an external display for your Mac, so that you could see your that would be your conference window and the camera, and you basically have eye contact? That would be amazing.
Let's make that a feature request, Andy. Let's get it in.
Yes.
That's a great idea.
File a reader.
In your review, you also demonstrate what do you call that? The look down at your desk.
Oh, desk view
thing.
Yeah, it's it's clever. They're using the ultra wide at that point to get a very, very wide view, and then look down on your desk and invert it and de-distort it and make something that you can like show people like the documents on your desk.
This looks pretty good.
It works. The app is really good. It looks really good. The problem is nobody ergonomically has that kind of desk space in front of their device. No. So if you're using a laptop, you got to push your laptop like 3 feet back. Yeah. If you're using an iMac or something, you got to push the iMac way back on your desk. Right. And so it's not, it's not going to be super well used, but it's really well made. It's a very fast, responsive app. It's done as an app, so that you can use it with screen sharing in something like Zoom, as if you were sharing a presentation, except you're actually sharing your desk. And it works really well. It's just, I don't think it's very practical, just the sheer physics of it. You've got to clear enough space. And the shot that I did, I mean, it's like you're seeing the very edge of my desk. And I would have had to shove my monitor way back in order to get more. Well, and with laptops, it's kind of a joke, right? You're so far away from the people you're video conferencing with and from your keyboard in order to have enough desk space to show anything. It's sort of silly.
I will point out it is correcting for distortion for your notebook, but as a result, because your hand is slightly above the notebook, your wedding ring has now turned into a pyramid. So,
you get like alien arms when you're using it.
Do not put your hands in the shot. It's really creepy.
Great, yeah.
Because I guess because of the distortion correction.
Right.
Yeah.
Objects may be shorter than they appear.
Yeah.
Fingers may be weirder than they appear.
Yeah, no, you definitely get ET hands if you use it.
And I wasn't sure. I thought maybe you had weird hands, but then I looked at your wedding ring and I figured it must be a circle.
My hands are normal hands, Leo. They're normal hands. I don't have ET hands.
Okay, ET fingers. Let's take a little break.
Ouch.
Lots more to talk about. I do want to talk about the shared photo album. I want to know about that and any other features of Ventura. And we are just getting started because there's also iPad OS 16. I think 16.1 actually, right? They pushed out an update to that. And that's just the beginning. There's so much more because you have the new iPad.
Yeah, there's new iPads too. On top, all that. It's high season, Leo. This is it. We're in our prime right now. This is it.
I wish we could just spread this out. And then I have some legitimate questions. I think I have a reputation for buying something at the end of life. I bought the Mac Cube and then got it home and then saw the news that they discontinued it like 5 minutes after I bought it.
But just think of it this way. You got it before it was gone.
I did. And I wish I still had it, honestly, because that was historic. However, as you know, I talked about it last week, poured coffee directly into my 14-inch M1 MacBook. By the way, there's the M1 right there, right above the fried chip where the coffee short-circuited the trackpad and made a mess of the motherboard. I gave it to Burke to try to fix it, and this is what I got back. You got to
do your Apple self-repair program,
It still smells very much like coffee. In fact, that's what the repair guy, when I brought it to the Apple store, said, I still smell coffee. Usually that means it's had a chance to really soak in, and I'm thinking this is a tier 4 fix. I said, a tier 4 fix? That sounds bad. He says, that's a $1,300 repair because we're going to send this to Apple, and they're going to put you a new logic board in there. And so
they call that a motorcyclist. It's nothing but donor parts.
Donor parts. I wouldn't even donate these parts. I think this is it. It's done.
You can turn that screen into a really nice external display. I mean,
actually,
the rest of it is toast.
I think Burke's doing that, as a matter of fact, as we speak. In any event, because I couldn't be without a MacBook, it kills me because I know there's new MacBooks coming. I was hoping this was the week. I've been even saying, in fact, I even said to the Apple guy, that's okay because there'll be new Macs on the 24th, right?
No.
Nope. So I ended up buying what you like. Everybody I know, Micah loves the M2 MacBook Air. It's very nice, but I still want all those ports. I miss my 14. So we shall talk about what Apple might be up to and what I should do with my M2 MacBook Air. And when no, stop it, John, sit down. All right. But first, a word from our sponsor. ZocDoc. Before you book a brunch, what do? You go over all the reviews, right? You see what it says on Yelp and Google, and you say, you look at the pictures. Why do we do that for a silly little meal when we don't do it for one of the most important things we're going to do in our lives, make a doctor's appointment? Well, now you can with ZocDoc. You can see real, important, verified, that's important, verified patient reviews to help you find the right doctor in your network, so they take your insurance, and in your neighborhood, not just MDs, but all kinds of doctors. Finding the right doctor has got to be at least as important as finding the right Eggs Benedict. ZocDoc is a free app, shows you doctors who are patient reviewed, take your insurance, are available when you need them, and every specialist under the sun, whether you're trying to straighten your teeth, fix an achy back, get that mold checked out, whatever you're looking for. Dentists, yes. Chiropractors, yes. ZocDoc has you covered. And it's free. ZocDoc's mobile app is free, easy to use. You'll like it. You'll keep it on your phone because it's a great thing to have to search, find, and book doctors with just a few taps whenever you need them. Find and review local doctors. Read verified patient reviews from people who made real appointments. They do verify that. And now when you walk into that doctor's office, you're all set to see someone in your network who operates the way you want them to operate, right? Go to ZocDoc, ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. Find the doctor that's right for you. Book an appointment in person or remotely that works for your schedule. Actually, go to ZocDoc.com/MacBreak, if you will. That way they'll know you saw it here. Every month, millions of people use ZocDoc. They're there whenever you need to find it and book a quality doctor, and it's free. ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. When you go there, you can download the ZocDoc app for free. Then start your search for a top-rated doctor today. Many available within 24 hours. I know, you just go to the App Store, iOS or Android, Google Play Store, and you just can type in ZocDoc and you'll find it. But please do me a favor. Go to zocdoc.com/MacBreak. They're paying attention. We really appreciate their support, and you support us right back by going to ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. This is a really great way to get a doctor you will love. Okay. Let's talk about the shared photo album, because that came to everything, right? It came to Ventura, iPadOS, and even that old iPhone OS 16.1.
16.1 in Ventura.
Yeah.
It's real good.
Tell me how it works.
It took them, what they did iCloud Photos like 8 years ago, and my first question was, so can I share this with my wife? And they're like, And I thought that meant like check in next year, and it was check in 7 or 8 years from now. I did actually have a conversation with people involved with photos, and they said the problem is what we don't want to do is release a feature where the only people who benefit are people who want to share everything completely. And that means we need to come up with a way to do sort of like more intelligent sharing, because I think of it now as basically saying, okay, my daughter and my son are in college. They do not want to share all their photos with
No.
me, right? They don't. However,
I can assure you they do not.
However, when we're but when we're together, or like if my daughter's at the beach and she wants to send some pictures of the beach, you want to let them be able to contribute and actually maybe even have a suggestion like, hey, I saw you were with your family. Here are the photos from that. Do you want to throw these into the shared library? So in the last 8 years, I guess, they've been building this feature, but I can complain about it a lot. But let's just say it's here now, and it's actually very good because you can choose exactly what to contribute. You can say, I don't want to contribute anything except manually. You can say, I want to contribute everything or everything from a certain date. It'll suggest, you can set like people that it recognizes and say, these people, if they're photos of them, I want to have it's suggested that I donate those into the library. It's very thoughtfully designed. You can add or remove things at any time. The only real quirk is whoever creates the library, it goes on their iCloud storage. It's not a big deal if you're in a family because you have a shared iCloud account, but you don't have to be in an iCloud family to join a shared library. You can invite somebody. So like my mom is not in my iCloud family, but I could invite her to our shared library if I wanted to.
She has to obviously have an Apple device. And does she have to have the latest iOS, iPadOS, or macOS?
Yes, that is the catch, is that you have to be on 16.1 iOS or iPadOS or Ventura to get this feature. But it is, otherwise you won't see the shared library. It'll be,
that means
you have to update all your devices, right? So if you update your iPad but not your iPhone, and then you contribute a bunch of your photos on your iPad into the shared library, and your iPhone is not on 16.1, it will no longer see those photos because they're not in your library anymore. They're in the shared library.
Ew.
And you can pull them back, but you'll have to do it from your iPad. So this is really a feature you should not use unless all the devices that you care about are on the latest OS. But if you do that, it's great. Like so my wife and I do a calendar every year, and we do a Christmas card every year. And you want to go through all the photos for the year. But she's got a separate Apple ID than me. So what ends up happening is, in December sometime, I plug her iPhone into my Mac, and we import all of her photos for the last year into my library, so that then we can sit down and pick the photos we want to choose for the calendar and for the Christmas card. And that's done now. We don't have to do that anymore because she can contribute her photos into the shared library, and then I can too, and then we all have access to that. And she doesn't need to use my computer anymore either. She can use her computer because she'll see my photos too, which previously she had to use mine because it was the one logged in with my Apple ID because I had imported her photos. So it's going to be really good as it rolls out and as people get used to it. I think it's a really great feature.
So I could add all of my photos to the shared library. Obviously, no one wants to do that, but it wouldn't take up any storage on their iCloud. It's just a duplicate from my iCloud.
Yeah, if you're not in the family, because if you're family, it's all shared, right? But if you're not in the family, and you contribute, it actually leaves your library allotment and enters their library allotment.
Okay.
It's like if it's Leo started it, and then other person outside donates a gigabyte of photos, it counts toward your gigabyte and not toward theirs.
Oh, that's important to remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and I didn't mention, actually, one of my favorite features and another little thoughtful feature Apple did is, those little toggles in the camera app on the iPhone where you can say live photo or not, or raw or not, or whatever. There's a new one that is shared or not. So you can turn sharing on for a while and share a bunch of photos you shoot, and then you can turn it off, and then the photos you shoot don't go. So you choose where the photos you shoot on your iPhone go, whether they go to the shared library or they don't.
So I upload all my photos both to iCloud and to Google's Photos. Google has had this feature for some time. In fact, I've used this feature it's a little simpler. It doesn't work quite the same way, but whenever I take a picture of Lisa, my wife, it automatically sends it to her and adds it to her library, I guess. This is a little bit more elaborate, a little bit more capable, and there are some more caveats about it, so that you should be aware of it. It doesn't add it to her library, it just shares it with her. So there's a folder, she has a shared folder on her Google Photos that has all the pictures I've taken of her.
And I think that's a good point, too, to say that Apple has it's like, why is this different from previous sharing things? Because you could share an album, and there were other like iCloud links you could share. Like the shared albums weren't full quality. And then you would add them to your library, and you would have a lower quality version of what was shared with you. The iCloud links that you've been able to share from iOS the last few years are full quality, but again, you're copying it into your library, and it's also in their library, and they don't connect. This feature, it's literally, instead of one library, you have two libraries. You can display in the interface, you can say, show me just mine, or show me the shared, or put them both together, and then there's a little badge on the shared ones that indicates it's in the shared library, but they're truly shared. If you add a keynote or a keyword, if you add a title, edit the photo, the edit goes everywhere. Now, keep in mind, your originals are always there because it's still an iCloud photo library thing. But if you're cleaning it up, like if you've got one person in your family who's like, well, I'm going to clean up this photo, they can just clean it up, and then you see the cleanup, and then you can use that. And deletions, you can remove something from the library, and you can delete things, but if you delete things, they go in a shared deletion bin. So if somebody deletes things that you don't agree with, you can kind of undelete them. And if somebody tries to yank a photo back, I think you have an opportunity in certain cases to, I think if somebody tries to delete your photo, you can bring it back to your library. They've thought of all of these kind of instances of potential tug of wars in the library. So it's a really, for all the time it took for them to do an obvious feature, it is a very well thought out feature.
We have to hope so. Apple doesn't have a really great track record on this sort of stuff, where it's like, oh, I honestly thought that I was just simply giving myself the power to access my music or access my files or whatever elsewhere. I didn't realize that clearing up space on my 128 gigabyte iPhone would also delete it from my 10-year-old library. Okay, well, thank you.
What I can tell you is I've been using iCloud Photo Library since the start because I wrote a book about it. It's like Jason, why do you do it? It's like, well, because I wrote a book. I had no choice. I wrote a book about it for Take Control Books. I have to do a new version now, but iCloud Photo Library has been solid from the start. And the beautiful thing about this feature is it is literally another iCloud Photo Library, and all they're doing is showing you both of them and letting you toggle. And that's what gives me confidence in this feature, because it does not feel like some weird new thing. It feels very naturally an extension of the thing that they've had for 7 or 8 years, and that works very well. Yes, you should probably have a computer somewhere that's set to download all images in your library and back that thing up. You should do that.
I'm a little concerned that I'm going to screw it up. Google, so I just shared, for instance, just to see how hard it was on Google. So I go into Google Photos. I want to make a shared library that I send to my son. So I said every picture I have of Henry going back all to practically the beginning, it says, here's the link. I send it to Henry. It stays in my library. It's just a shared Google Photos. It doesn't have any of this weird moving stuff from here to there. Every time I take another picture of him, it's added to my shared photo library. I think that's a better way of doing it, to be honest. It's at least clearer in my mind.
Well, it is clearer, but the problem is you lose the power of having it be a common space.
He can't add to it. But although you can make shared libraries, everybody can add to as well.
that feature exists on Photos already, right? That you've been able to share a library or share an album and have people add it to their library if they want separately as a copy all along. This is like the next step, which I really think people who want this feature will know that they want it. People who don't want it will know that. I think it's obviously its primary use cases in families, and it's probably partners who are taking pictures of their life and their kids and together. And it doesn't make sense that I've got pictures of us on the beach from my camera, and my wife has pictures of us on the beach from her camera, and we never see the other pictures. That's dumb. Or we have to manually share them. So
it should be with somebody you're close to.
100%.
And if it somehow disappears from your library, somebody you can go to and say, "Can I get that back?"
Yeah, and like I said, there are limitations there, right? They can't destroy your picture that you contributed. I think it can get thrown in the deletion bin, but it is not permanently deleted at that point. And I think you get an alert that says, this thing is being deleted. Do you want to copy it back to your library? So they've tried to think about all of that stuff, but this is not something you invite random people to. This is not, and you can only have one. So
that's
I think
important.
It is
you can
just
only have one. I couldn't have one for every kid. Like, here's one I have with Abby. Here's one I have with Henry.
No,
it's a family album. Really,
it really is. I mean, it doesn't have. You don't have to be an iCloud family member to be that. But yes, that is absolutely.
And you
the
could do it with
here.
multiple people. So I could say, here's all the pictures I have of the three other people in my family or whatever. Here they are. Okay.
Yeah, and
then
it'll let you
gets
select, and it'll let you select that and actually recognize, like, you took a bunch of pictures of your son. Do you want to throw those in the family shared library? And it'll do that automatically when you say yes.
I think I like Google's system better, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's not for every use case, but I think I will tell you from my use case over the last decade plus that I've been managing photos on my Mac, I guess 2 decades almost now, because my daughter is 20. This is exactly what we want, at least for my wife and I. Whether my kids will ever want to participate in this, or even if I want to ask them, I don't know. Like, do they want to look at a photo library with their baby pictures in it? Probably not. But my wife and I will love it.
Wait till they get older, they might.
Yeah, I know exactly. That's why features like this are so important. Because they have to be so long-reaching. I mean, as it happens, my aunt died in her 90s. One of my favorite relatives in the world. She was wonderful. And of course, you go to the wake, and the family puts up all these boards of all these old photos and stuff like that. And it's like half of I'd say 1/5 to 1/4 of the conversations in that room where I don't have that photo. Who has that photo? Can I get a copy of that photo? And these are the things that like get lost. And so the idea of having one permanent sense of like visual truth for the family is going to become more and more important. It's going to be the company that really, really cracks this is probably going to be the one that makes it as easy as possible, as ecumenical as possible, and probably as the least clever solution possible. The idea that here's just a bucket that we can allow other people to access to, that makes it easy to archive things, not just be able to flip through stuff on our phones, but to make sure we always have the best quality of this available. So yeah, this is a non-trivial thing. I joke about Apple. I am gun shy about trusting Apple with like library data unless I've got an air gap between the Apple service and a backup of it. I mean, an absolute air gap, because I want to be able to spend an afternoon of cussing and shaking my fist and restoring things the way they were if Apple tends to screw it up. But it's not an easy thing to do, and I'm glad to see that they're trying to do something better than what they have had available before.
Alex, will you use it, or does it seems a little overcomplicated? And I'm very nervous about stuff moving from one library to another. That scares the hell out of me.
I think I'd be more interested if it copied it.
Yeah.
Like I just, as like when I heard like it's going to move it, I'm like, well, I don't want to do that.
I don't want that.
Like, so I immediately just like stopped looking at it when it was like when I felt like it was going to move the file.
Okay, but conceptually, I get the idea that moving is scarier than copying. But literally, what you're doing is you're moving it from one iCloud library to the other iCloud library, both of which you have full control over. So
if there was an option, I just like all my stuff to be on my library. Like my I like one.
But
library.
It is your library.
It isn't. I mean, I would be 100% in if I had a button somewhere in the preferences that just says copy to the folder. Like I'm fine with it having 2 copies. Like I'm fine with paying whatever I need to pay to have the copy where it was originally and then one in the new version. I'd be 100% behind that. If I have to pay an extra $9.99 a month or whatever, I would do that. I don't want to move it from one to the other.
I feel like this is like, I get it, but I feel like this. You're our Dr. McCoy now. Congratulations, because I feel like this is the same argument as if you step into the transporter and are beamed down to the planet. Is it you down there, or did you just get disintegrated and a new you has been put down?
You could duplicate it. Could you? Emmerich in our chat room saying, "Well, can you duplicate it in your library first and then move the copy? Can you like have a folder like a backup?"
I think that it would be interesting to live that way, but you could probably live that way where you were duping things, putting them in the library, and not viewing them.
That's what I want Apple to do for me, though. Is I just want to say, I just don't. My whole thing is I just want to know that I can move my libraries around and do whatever I'm going to do to them. They're on a lot of machines. They're doing a lot of things, and I don't want it to be like I'm just like.
I guess what I would say is if that is what you're viewing your libraries as moving your libraries around and all that, this is probably not the feature for you. It's probably not at that level. I would say I'm not sure iCloud photo library in general is for you if that's the way you're thinking of it, right? Because you're already putting your stuff everywhere. In the cloud.
I am putting it in the cloud and I have it shared everywhere. It's just I think mentally, I just have a hard time getting over the fact that I'm going to put it in something else. Yeah. Like I really because it is everything. Like my iCloud, after Aperture closed, my photo library.
That's what I do
my
too.
Library.
It's my damn. It is my library. My digital.
And
and
I have copies of it, and I have I make copies periodically to make sure that if something happened, they're not corrupted. But I think that for me, and I might get over it, but for me, especially new. Like I have one sacrificial lamb that has Ventura on it after last year's fiasco. And so, so the rest of my computer's going to stay back for a little while. I wouldn't get into anything new. And again, and I've had some issues copying. I had a lot of issues pulling iPhoto libraries into Aperture where it grabbed just the thumbnails. And then I didn't.
That's really bad. Yeah.
Didn't pull all of them in. And so I have a lot of thumbnails of things that I don't have anymore. And so I have, so my kind of like Andy, my experience with how Apple manages the libraries has not been 100%. And so I think that kind of colors my view of that feature. So
I'm like
but
you,
oftentimes
Alex. I'm doing it. It's my digital asset management. I mean, I'm putting RAWs in there. When I take pictures, I decided maybe wrongly that instead of using Adobe's paid library or Lightroom, I'm going to use it as my because it's easy for me then to edit it in Lightroom or some other program.
And I also like the fact that because 99% of the photos I take are on my phone, and so I mean I do have and so what happens is I take it and a couple minutes later it's going to be sitting on my it's going to be sitting everywhere, plus, and so
I have apps for the Leica and for the Sony on my iPhone that will take what I've just taken and do that and it'll do it in RAW. So
yeah, so
I think in the end it comes down to: do you want to use Photos as your photo management tool? Do you want to use iCloud Photos,
or is it just a photo album
as a cloud sync? And then the third step is: and do you want to have because in the end it's all a cloud data store with a slightly different ID, but you're marked as the owner of it. Like it is not as scary as I think it sounds.
Not moving those pictures around, of course.
Not really, right? And it knows that you're the contributor and you have privileges that other people don't have to that photo. They do have the ability to edit it, but you've got the original and you can pull it back and take it off the shared and all of that stuff. But I think it is true. Like step one is, do I want to use Photos as the repository for my stuff? Step two is, do I want to use iCloud? And step three is, do I want to share part of my iCloud library in a common space with someone else who's also sharing that library? And at any point, I think you can say no. But I feel like going to iCloud is the leap you're making, not adding the shared library. I have all
my stuff
iCloud.
Going to iCloud now, and I guess the thing is that if it let me just say I'm going to copy it over into that file, I would ask, how many shared folders can I have? I would do this all the time. Like as someone who's, I would be like, I want 10 shared folders. I want 20 shared folders. I don't want one. I want them all because I'm going to have this group that I'm sharing with and this group that I'm sharing with. And I'd
that's not this feature for sure. That's not
but I'm
this
saying
feature.
Google does that beautifully though.
Yeah. Well, but it's anyway. So it's not,
and
not
Apple has
integrated in the rest of my
a
life,
shared albums feature. It's just not this feature.
Yeah. So
I do think that the central focus of a feature like this has to be just like the camera app on every phone is based on, here is a big round button that's unmistakable. Push this button and you will get at minimum a good picture, because that's what most people want out of a camera. And I think that the central truth of this kind of feature has to be, whatever picture you take will be backed up to a place where it's safe if your phone gets stolen, or if you're just stupid and you delete things off of your computer or whatever. And I think that people are also in the space where I want to be able to share this, and not necessarily always through iMessages. So it's all the things that we're talking about today are very, very real and very, very good points. But there are also people who understand backups and servers and the idea of the 1, 2, 3 rule and all that sort of stuff. Whereas people just want to say, don't want to be surprised that, wait a minute, but how come my sister was able to delete a picture out of my library because she was running out of space on her phone? Or how come, but this was such a beautiful picture that I was able to send away for an 8x10 print. Why a year later does it suddenly look so crummy that it's barely good enough for Instagram? So that's all the stuff that needs to be addressed. It has to be as simple as, I took a picture, now it's going to be there forever as long as I keep paying somebody $10 a month, and I can very, very easily share it with friends, relatives, and the world if I want to embarrass myself that way.
All right, I do want to get to the iPad review, so let's take one more break before we do that. Snell is back, bearing goodies. Yay. And Ihnatko also here, goodly bearing. And Mr. Alex Lindsay.
That's my Renfair name, Sir Goodly Bearing.
Sir Goodly Bearing. Yeah. Our show today brought to you by 8 Sleep. I love my 8 Sleep. I had a 99% sleep score last night. Not this night. That was the night the cats woke me up. The night before. The last night. Sunday night. Maybe because we just come back from Vegas and I was exhausted. I don't know. But it was so great after sleeping in a hotel bed, which was fine for a couple of nights, to get back in my 8 Sleep bed. And man, it's like I am home. In fact, that's the only bad thing about having an 8 Sleep pod cover, is you're not going to want to go anywhere. You're going to want to stay in your bed because it's so comfortable. Good sleep is so important. We're all looking for a great night's sleep, I think. And I think it's well known that consistently good sleep can reduce the likelihood of serious health issues, can reduce the risk of heart disease, lower your blood pressure. There's even studies that say it reduces the risk of Alzheimer's. Because, good sleep, deep sleep, is about collecting the prions floating around in your brain, the garbage collection in your brain. It's pretty important. Yet more than 30% of Americans struggle with sleep. You know what the number one problem people complain about? Feeling hot at night. Isn't that the worst? You wake up sweaty, or maybe even worse, you wake up freezing cold. And as we're heading into winter here in the Northern Hemisphere, maybe it's more likely the latter. Although, you turn on the heat at night. Sometimes you go to bed and it's freezing out, so you turn on the heat and you're still waking up sweaty. Let me tell you, this is a better way. It's also more efficient than turning on the heat in the house. Heat your bed or cool it with your 8 Sleep pod. 8 Sleep offers the only sleep technology that dynamically cools and heats each side of the bed to maintain optimal sleeping temperature for what your body needs. It pairs dynamic cooling and heating with biometric tracking. You can add the pod cover to any mattress. They also sell a mattress. We have the pod cover because we have a mattress we love. But you'll start sleeping as cool as, get this, it goes down all the way to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like air conditioning. I mean, it's so nice. Or as hot as 110 degrees Fahrenheit. In fact, it even can change based on the temperature of the room and how you're sleeping. So, for instance, and Lisa has different settings than I do. Sure, her side is different than mine, but my side, I always turn it up 3 or 4. It goes from off to 10, okay? So I always turn it up to 3 or 4, so when I get in, it's cozy. And then I fall asleep because I'm so cuddly cozy in there. But then, in order to facilitate deep sleep, it drops the temperature a little bit. And it turns out that really puts you into deep sleep. So I'm sleeping deeply. And then it wakes me up in the morning by going up again. And I have it set that way. So I awake and it's cozy. Isn't the worst thing, winter's here now, or fall anyway, when you wake up and the house is freezing and you don't want to get out of your bed? That's how I felt this morning. I want to stay here. Clinical data shows 8 Sleep users experience up to 19% increase in recovery, up to 32% improvement in sleep quality, and up to 34% more deep sleep. And, they don't talk about it in the ads. Maybe they do on the website. But if you're heating your house or you're keeping a fire going at night, this is much more efficient. Much more efficient. You're going to use much less power because you're heating it directly, right? So there's no wasted energy. 8 Sleep just launched the next generation of the pod. The new Pod 3 enables more accurate sleep and health tracking with double the amount of sensors, giving you the best sleep experience on Earth. It's not magic, but it sure feels like it. I love my 8 Sleep. And you really love it more when you're away for a couple of nights and you come home and you go, oh, I missed you, baby. 8sleep.com/MacBreak to sleep cozy this fall. Or if you're in Australia, you can get it there too to sleep cool this summer. Save $150 at checkout on the pod when you go to 8sleep.com/MacBreak. 8 Sleep does ship in Australia, as well as the U.S., Canada, the UK, even select countries in the EU. If you can get it, you must. You really must. It's great. 8sleep.com/MacBreak. Great time to get it right now as winter sets in. Get yourself all cozy and warm. Oh, it's so nice. 8sleep.com/MacBreak. Thank you, 8 Sleep, for giving me a good night's sleep and for supporting our podcast. So, the biggest complaint, and you weren't here for this last week, Jason, that most people seem to have about Apple's slipstream announcement last week of the new iPads is the line is very confusing now. What's the Air for anyway? Good.
I have a theory, which is the Air's for replacing the 11-inch iPad Pro at some point.
It's going. Oh, interesting. So they'll do a 12.9 iPad Pro, and
there's a rumor there's a 14 iPad coming, a large iPad. So you have 2 large iPad Pros, and then, like I said, right now there are 3 11-inch iPads. I don't know what they're going to do. I have theories, but it's all just made up. I'm just trying to guess. But there are 3 or 4, depending on how you count, basically the same size iPad. You got the old 9th gen, which is a little smaller, but basically the same. And then you've got the new 10th gen, the Air, and the 11-inch Pro. It's with different accessories and different compatibility. And I think they're headed somewhere. And I think we got signs last week that where they're heading is maybe good, but it's real confusing right now because their highest end model is still stuck in 2018.
And you can't use the Apple II Pencil on the new iPad 10th generation. So you have to get your dongle out if you've got the Apple II Pencil, and I hope you saved your dongle. And you got
the Apple II Pencil came out in 1981, but yes, here it is.
And it was tethered.
There's your dongle
time.
Dongle time. So you have an adapter that takes the Lightning connector, because your new iPad doesn't have Lightning. It's got Type-C.
Yeah, which is great, except what do you do about that Apple Pencil 1 that it's compatible with? And the answer is...
That's what I meant, the 1, not the 2.
You get a big plastic dongle that attaches to the nubbin on the inside of the cap of the Pencil 1.
Is that the technical term, a nubbin?
It is now.
It's a nubbin.
And then
didn't your Pencil 1 come with...
the other side.
Didn't your Pencil 1 come with that little thing, the adapter?
An extremely losable pass-through adapter that would let you plug it into a Lightning port.
They knew ahead of time that this would happen.
Right. So if you're I don't know if that would work, if you could use that adapter and then do a Lightning to USB-C cable, if that would work or not. But anyway, it is one of the most awkward products Apple has ever made. It's $9. I mean, it's not expensive, and future sales of Apple Pencil 1 will come with it in the box because no one else is buying this thing except people who are using this iPad. But it shows you that Apple really ended up between a rock and a hard place, because they designed the Apple Pencil 2 with the inductive charging and the magnetic attachment,
which
and for whatever reason, it's great, and for whatever reason they couldn't or wouldn't put it in this model, and so they had to go back to the old one, which is Lightning, but they are going to USB-C. So what do you do? And the answer is plastic thing.
It just seems so backwards for Apple. Like, I will say that everything else, the 2 things that really stood out for me, I mean, other than the Air missing, was number 1 is they moved the camera for one iPad, but not the Pro one. I understand
Yes.
that there's like a, you're like, because it makes a huge difference. Having that camera in the center
enormous difference. And I think that I think the practical answer, the pragmatic answer is
I know what the
Apple didn't want to rebuild the iPad Pro body, probably because they've got another one coming. Maybe, again, just wild speculation here, maybe that was originally what was supposed to be out now, but at some point during pandemic and supply chain issues, maybe they said, no, we can't do it now. Let's push it off a little bit. And so they did no exterior or like structural work on that iPad Pro. They just kind of did a chip revision, and so I know why, but it is still so frustrating.
So weird
to have
it's
that change.
That's weird, and the using the original pencil is weird. Like I'm just saying, like on a new iPad, it's weird. Like and it's
don't forget the function row
un-Apple.
on the keyboard too, which is something that people have wanted on that Magic Keyboard for years, and it's on the new one, but only on the new one.
Yeah, and so there's some new stuff, and then there's really old stuff that is like from like 6 years ago,
2015,
and it just
2015,
and when they when the new laptops come out, and they're obviously just using the old, like, we couldn't come up with something new, and you're just like, really? I mean, you're Apple. It's like that shot in Armageddon where like, you're NASA, man. You got people thinking about stuff, and people backing them up. It's like, you're Apple. Like, this should be new products.
There's some fiction here, right? Apple does not do a brand new hardware revision of every product it releases, right? Like the MacBook Air looks like it does for a few years, and then like that new M2 Air, the MacBook Air for the next few years is going to look like that. They don't have a design structure, and I think a cost structure that allows them to rethink all of their models every year. However, this has been 4 iterations of the iPad Pro since 2018, and that's why I say it feels to me like they maybe missed their mark with whatever they've got coming next, and so they shoved this out there as a replacement, because that's a long time to leave that product that is supposedly your hero product at the top of the iPad product line sitting.
And I think that's the problem. Having the lower end one update to something that the higher end one doesn't is the part that
I know.
Well, and vice versa.
They did that before, but they did that with Center Stage on the iPad Air. That didn't go on the iPad Pro until the next iPad Pro came out. But to have the indignity of a new iPad Pro that doesn't have the feature, it's brutal.
So you think next year an iPad Pro revision that will have the camera on the long side?
Rumors are that it's because this is an 18-month cycle, right? iPad Pro tends to get revived every 18 months.
Okay.
And so
it'll be
the rumors are that there is a new OLED iPad Pro design coming in early 2024.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
And who knows what that's going to look like. It's fascinating to see just little things like moving the front facing camera from the short edge to the long edge is Apple's concession that remember those commercials we did where it's not a computer, it is a computer. Please budget this as a computer. Please please think of it as one of its many natural inclinations is to be attached to a keyboard and a trackpad and do laptop-y things.
Actually, when you go to the Apple Store and ask it, it actually has a response. You can show this. Something went wrong. That's all I can think of. I wanted to show the yellow iPad. You have a Old Yeller. You're going to
Old Yeller.
Let me see Old Yeller because I can't show it. Something goes wrong.
There it is.
It's yellow. That ain't gold.
And the blue and pink are really nice too. I mean, any metallic yellow is going to look goldy, but it is very yellow. And I love the colors. Like Apple has this problem getting colors to pop on their Pro models. They're like, no, Pros are boring and want boring colors.
Right.
And like the option is fine, but give us some fun options too. And these are much more, it's almost like as the price gets lower, the fun gets poured into them, because iPad Air has kind of colors, but they're kind of muted, and these are not muted at all. They are big and loud. And then there's a silver one if you want to be boring. That's fine. Speaking of muted, the really muted colors are on the Mini, which they also did not update. Yeah, also not updated. Yeah. To Andy's point, I mean, we can talk about the weirdness of it, and I think it's not just an academic exercise where tech pundits are like, what is the meaning of the iPad line now? I think it's also a problem for people buying iPads, for people in Apple stores, employees at Apple stores explaining to a customer which iPad they should buy, and the difference between the iPad Air and the 10th generation and the 9th generation that's still on sale. And that part of it is frustrating and confusing. But I will say, I like, and that adapter is dumb, but I like where I see them going in, as Andy said, that horizontal orientation. Like, actually, that's the orientation. All they need to do is take that Apple logo on the back and go and turn it too, and then we're good. And the trackpad is bigger, and they're them saying even on the lowest end iPad that's new, we're going to make a keyboard case, and we're going to put a keyboard and a trackpad on it, even though that iPad previously only had the ability to do a keyboard, but the trackpad is important. We think that's important. And we're going to put a function row on there, which I asked them so many times when the Magic Keyboard came out, why no function row? And they gave me kind of a mealy-mouthed answer, right? Because they're PR people. It's the greatest thing ever. Why would you need something that's not on it? And so when I see the function row, I think, yes, Apple has now admitted that iPad users might want a function row on their keyboard to change their brightness or volume without having to reach up and go to Control Center. And that's good news. So that's all good stuff. It's just frustrating as an iPad Pro user knowing that they're not going to bring it to the rest of the platform probably for a year and a half.
And then there's the Apple TV, which comes a week from Friday. Woo! So you didn't get one of those, did you?
I didn't get one. I bought one because I actually need another Apple TV in my house, and so I thought I would give it a try.
I have so many. I have so many Apple TVs. I keep on finding them in drawers. I'm like, there's another one. Where did that come from?
Well, the problem is I did that too, and then I found out it was the original black Apple TV little puck that doesn't have the TV OS on it. It has a weird interface. I'm like, no. Yeah. I don't want that. I don't. My daughter wanted an Apple TV. I'm like, I can't give this to her.
The size of a Mac Mini.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any apps. Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I think the big story with Apple TV is that it's while it's not affordable like a Roku box or an Amazon Firebox, it is cheaper than it used to be. Yeah. And now you can see sort of, it feels like an Apple product where like Apple's services are available everywhere at this point, right? You can get those everywhere. The only purpose of the Apple TV is it costs a little bit more. And I think it is nicer. And I wish it was $99, but they've made an effort. They pulled the Ethernet port out. They pulled the fan out. They pulled the Thread radio out, and they got one down there at a better price for a kind of a splurge upgrade if you want something that's nicer than a Roku box.
There's a game, though. There's a psychology game here because it's only $20 more to double the memory, to get the Ethernet, to get the fan, to get the Thread.
Ethernet is not a minor thing.
So I have a feeling they don't expect to sell many of those $129.
It's marketing.
And I think the Apple TV is the number one argument against an open app store, because they capitulated to a lot of folks and said, oh, you can just make people sign in a weird way into Hulu or whatever and Netflix. And so now we have all these, like the reason I have a new one, not the newest one, but the last one, it's still sitting in a box because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go through and figure out what all those registrations are, and so it just sits there. Literally, I bought it and I put it in, and as I started installing the apps, I couldn't just say restore purchase.
I know.
And it's that experience that had me become so hardened to, I don't want any ordering options outside of the App Store, because as a user, I want to be able to open it and hit restore to every app that I have on that Apple TV. And it's not that way. It's like I got a goofy code and I got
That's because you can blame the evil, paranoid TV content industry. Yeah. I mean, they're just really awful. I have to log into Showtime every few weeks.
I got rid of it. I had to log in. I was like,
every few weeks. Like I logged in a few weeks ago. You don't remember me? Yeah. At least Apple lets you now remembers your cable company, right? So there is some.
Yeah. But I haven't had cable. I haven't had cable TV.
You don't have that.
Oh no, not for decades.
Yeah,
I've had cable TV for like 1 year since 1996.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was all these ads. Like, where did all these ads come from? It's like I can't start 10 minutes late and then just.
Well, if you'd had cable TV, you could have watched ESPN and watched the Formula One race on Sunday. That weirdly featured not only Tim Cook with the checkered flag in the most somber checkered flag ceremony I've ever seen.
Yes, he thought somebody died.
Oh my God! The noise alerts he must have been getting on his watch all day long. I bet they burned him a special version of the OS that just disables that entire thing.
Let me see if I can find a picture of Tim Cook. The F1 fans blow up over Apple CEO for, quote, lamest checker flag wave at the Austin Grand Prix. He just did not want to give an inch on this thing.
And there was much rejoicing.
Yeah.
Yay.
The funny thing is, and Crofty did not know who it was, but there's a shot briefly of Ed Sheeran talking to an F1 official, and Crofty goes, "There's Ed Sheeran talking to," and he knew the name of the F1 official, but he didn't notice that the guy in between was Eddie Q. Standing, and I paused it. I went, "Wait a minute, that's Eddie Q." They had no idea it was another Apple exec. So I had some I'm conspiracy theory, Apple's trying to get F1 signed up. So what did I find out?
Nope.
That same day, ESPN signed a deal for Formula One for another 3 years. So I do think it was up for sale, and I think Eddie and Tim were there.
No, that ESPN purchase was reported a couple months ago as going to happen.
Yeah.
There's a movie that Brad Pitt is making about F1, and it's an Apple TV movie.
Oh,
so that's it.
So they're there for Brad, because Brad Pitt was also there. Yes.
They're going to shoot scenes on the tracks during events, or during in the run up to events for that movie. So it's definitely a big partnership they're making with F1. That's why they were there.
Here's another happy Tim Cook picture.
He reminded me of my kids when we would try to get them to do something that they'd never done before, and he's very serious of I'm gonna do it, and it's you're supposed to have fun, man. Have fun.
I will say we did a live shoot from an Indy, where we were putting people on the track, with the dual seater with Mario Andretti, and it is overwhelming, to be on the track. I just will say that in his defense, it is really, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of things out there that can hurt you. And there's a lot of things just happening, and everyone's yelling at you if you're in the wrong place, and so I can see how he could get just overwhelmed with it.
Here's the video. I hope I don't get in trouble with ESPN for showing this. But he's not even waving it. He's not even waving it fast.
I think he was just trying to do it really well.
Trying to do it right.
He's just there's a zigzag. I got to do the zigzag.
Super focused, just like my kids. I just want to do this right.
Sorry, Tim.
Someone didn't give him
flapping around.
I did know though that the ESPN deal. It's interesting. ESPN said that they're working on streaming. They want to so if you go to the Variety article about the ESPN Formula One extend track with new rights deal, and there's Eddie Q kissing, I think that's Danica. No, I'm kidding. That one of the things they haven't worked out. What's more, the new deal expands ESPN's direct-to-consumer rights, giving flexibility how it distributes telecasts over the next 3 years, including on the streaming outlet ESPN. But I wonder if Apple might be kind of getting a little bit involved in that as well. They really want to do sports. They could do something really interesting, I thought.
Well, in F1, I mean, their coverage is incredible. How they
it's very high tech.
Cover that sport. It's very, very high tech, and they're
helicopters and
they're passing that all back to the UK, and it's they've got this team that goes out for each weekend, and it goes out in these containers. It's incredible.
Yeah. If you ever get an invite, I'd like to go, Alex. Yeah. I don't care. Anywhere in the world. I'll go to Abu Dhabi. I'll go anywhere. Baku.
Yeah.
I don't care. So it's interesting because I think it's becoming big in the U.S., and so now's a good time. But, of course, it's hard. Disney is one of the few companies that can outbid Apple, I would guess.
ESPN very much did not want to let that one go because they know how that is a rising sport. So they paid a lot of money for that one.
Yeah.
Also, the people who follow it tend to buy luxury items.
Little wealthy.
That's a good business to be in.
Yes, a little bit wealthy.
It is enticing to think about what Apple could do with crafting a presentation that links up with Apple TV and uses all the digital the telemetry that gets transmitted all across the track between the cars, the pits, the vans, the controllers. When I've seen what got me into F1 was not necessarily like the Nigel Mansell, tootling around an open cockpit. It's like, oh my God, look at all those numbers and bits, and look at all the laptops they're plugging into things. So
it's super
that could be an interesting thing.
Yeah. A couple of other quick stories. Evans Hankey's leaving. So Johnny Ive left, 3 years ago, and then only recently gave up his independent contract with Apple. Evans Hankey was his replacement. She was in charge of Apple Design. Now she's leaving in 6 months. I I wonder, is that, Apple's known for design. She's been there running product design since 2019. There are, I'm sure, other people in the team that they could bring up, but to lose Evans right after losing Johnny can't be good.
Well, I don't think it's right after losing Johnny. I think Johnny just stopped taking the checks at some point, but I think he's been out of there for quite some time.
Yeah.
I think that Johnny Ive has not been really applied for 3, 4, maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
Like it's not, it was kind of a nice soft, like, let's not spook anybody, but he was done a while ago.
Alan Dye is still there, long time head of design. You might blame him actually for the system preferences. He's head of design for software and user interfaces. He's still there. Remember, Johnny was in charge of user interfaces towards the end. They gave him everything.
I remember. My therapist no longer has me bring in the punching doll anymore. I can just look. My eyes aren't twitching anymore. It's therapy works, folks.
Tell me on this skeuomorphic doll where the iPad update hurt you.
Actually, you might have a problem finding where you need to touch because he decided to remove more buttons and indicators because they offended his eye. So he plucked them out. Yes.
Bono is writing a memoir in which he explains how it came to be that there was a black and red U2 iPod and how you got a U2 album you didn't want on your iPod. And I have to give him credit because he really took full responsibility for that screw up.
Yeah.
He really pushed it. Let me see if I can read the quote is hysterical. He said, okay, so free music? Asked Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, with a look of mild incredulity. Are you talking about free music? You want to give this music away free, but the whole point of what we're trying to do at Apple is to not give away music free. The point is to make sure musicians get paid. No, I said, I don't think we give it away free. I think you pay us for it, and then you give it away free. As a gift to the people. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Tim Cook raised an eyebrow. You mean we pay for the album and then just distribute it? I said, yeah, like when Netflix buys the movie and gives it away to subscribers. Tim looked at me as if I was explaining the alphabet to an English professor. But we're not a subscription organization. Not yet, I said.
Yet.
Not yet. Let ours be the first. Bono says, I take full responsibility. Not Guy O, not Edge, not Adam, not Larry, not Tim Cook, not Eddie Q. I thought if we could just put our music within the reach of people, they might choose to reach out towards it. Not quite. At first, I thought this was just an internet squall. We were Santa Claus, and we'd knocked a few bricks out as we went down the chimney with our bag of songs. But quite quickly, we realized we'd bumped into a serious discussion about the access of big tech to our lives. He likened it to pouring milk on people's cereal when they're lactose intolerant. He said, well, we thought free milk was a good thing, but maybe not. I am going to read this because I'm sure it'll be a wonderful memoir.
Yeah. That was very, very nice of him. And he did the thing is I would not have understood this until it actually started happening. But like even now, like when I go through like my on my file server, like the music that I own, it's like, why the hell did I buy that? And I remember, oh no, this was pushed into my library as a free promotional track. And it's like, but I don't want that. I don't want that coming up in shuffle play. That's not music that I like. Yeah. And you feel as though you didn't give up control. You had control taken away from you. And so that was
Apple had to make a tool.
Yeah, exactly. There was a tech support article. Somebody had to be paid. Someone had to use some of his hourly time to here's how to remove the thing that we thought you'd be delighted to have.
There also is some insight into the U2 iPod, which I bought for my sister. Came with the U2 songs on it. It was a beautiful, all the iPods up to that point had been black and red. So it started because they wanted to be in those iconic iPod ads with the dancing silhouettes. They said it could be us playing Vertigo, our new song, in the ad. And Steve said, well, I don't think we'd have the kind of budget that you might expect. Actually, Steve, I said, we don't want cash. We just want to be in the iPod commercial. Steve was thrown. Intrigued, said if that's the deal, he didn't have to think twice. He'd need to run it by the creative team. There's one other thing, added Paul McGinnis. Although the band are not looking for cash, some Apple stock, even a symbolic amount, might be a courtesy. Sorry, said Steve. That's a deal breaker. Silence.
Music people, right?
Well, I tentatively suggested, how about our own iPod, a customized U2 iPod in black and red? Steve looked nonplussed. Apple, he said, is about white hardware. You wouldn't want a black one. He thought for a moment. I could show you what it would look like, but you won't like it. So Johnny made it. They had a red, spin dial, because that looked like the Atomic Bomb album cover that U2 had released. There you go. It was a beautiful iPod. And if you still have one, here it is. If you still have one, the edges holding it. You're lucky. That's a special iPod.
That was an interesting time when the capacity of iPods were such that the idea of buying one as a container for all of the music of a band was very, very interesting and attractive.
Yeah.
Especially did they do? Am I misremembering? There was a Yellow Beatles one. I don't think so. But there was
they did. But I think there was. What was there?
But they did do the digital box set with U2, which was another groundbreaking thing, right? Where they took their entire output and it was a single purchase and you got all the B-sides and everything. And I mean, digital box set, it was literally just a bundle of all their albums. But still, that was the first time I'd seen anything like that.
$99. I bought all of Led Zeppelin's stuff on iTunes. It was, I mean, I was thrilled. I was really thrilled.
Jason, you were at the YouTube. You were at the launch event, weren't you? With the Steve Jobs and the. Yep, I was too. I just put a link in the show notes for my photos from Flickr that I posted from that thing. The ability to see YouTube perform an acoustic set from 25 feet away. That might be my favorite music. I couldn't believe it, right? Because it was just, it was Bono
and
The Edge, right?
This is a tiny theater here. Wow.
Yeah, that was the California Theater in San Jose, I want to say, is where that event was.
So you were up close and personal with...
one of my favorite bands of all time, and then they're right in front of me doing that. It was amazing. Cool. It was that star power. That like Andy said, the iPod made this weird fusion suddenly happen between Apple and the music industry, and that's when we started getting the huge stars showing up at these Apple events to perform live, which was just amazing.
Yeah.
Seeing a band like the Foo Fighters and nobody is yelling woo during the quiet parts. No one is. It's how can you beat that? It's it's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
that was. I remember how excited you were about seeing Dave Grohl up close and personal.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
I did not have the presence of mind to request a selfie. I was in journalism mode, so I requested a photo. God damn it, Andy.
And when Chris Martin from Coldplay performed at an Apple event, I was sitting next to Chris Breen, who is an accomplished pianist, who turned to me and said, well, for a piano player, he's a pretty good rock star.
Really?
Did not expect shade to be thrown at Chris Martin. But he's not wrong. Chris Martin's forte is not picking at the piano, but anyway, that was some great musical artists. But the YouTube thing, that was a big moment.
Was that the Steve Jobs Memorial? You weren't there. That's when they
played at a Yerba Buena event along with Kanye and The Weeknd and there's a long. It's an amazing and Sia and the musical artists. Drake didn't perform though. Drake just showed up in a jacket. But the musical artists on stage at Apple events it's quite a list. It's amazing.
Well, it's a testament to the power Apple wields in the music industry, and I think still does. Although I imagine less so now that Spotify is here. But
they're the two big services, right? And isn't it telling that Bono? And that was a savvy comment, right? Which is, you don't have to pay us. We'll just be in your iPod commercial for free. It's with our new single.
Yeah, they knew how many singles that would sell.
Good idea.
Millions of dollars.
Hello. Right. It was Vertigo, wasn't it?
Vertigo. Yeah.
Vertigo.
I still remember
and somebody in the chat room said, Nice song, but they really needed some help with the lyrics. Uno, dos, tres, catorce.
Yeah. I mean, it's a joke. That's
It's a joke? Is intentional?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
All right. Then that's good. I actually saw that tour in Toronto. Spent a lot of money for a scalper to see.
I've only ever seen you two live at Apple events.
Yeah, exactly.
Up close.
I've seen Elvis Costello. I've seen like all. If you name like my favorite top band, I think the only ones I have not seen that I would love to see live, but I can't because of Ticketmaster would be Paul McCartney. I think that's of all the bands that I would like to see, but we cannot because of Ticketmaster. That would be the only one that I haven't seen. Thanks to being invited to Apple events.
You were not wrong. There was a Beatles limited edition box set iPod sold at Bloomingdale's. Here's a picture of it. Thank you to user 1123. 120 gig iPod with the Beatles logo on the front and Abbey Road silhouette on the back and a unique number etched in. 2,500 of them. They sold at the time for $795. I imagine if you had one, you probably could sell it for a little bit more.
I'm guessing.
Little bit more. When was that? I hate it when they don't have a date on their posts, and they don't.
eBay has it listed about $1,500.
Oh, not bad.
So
only twice the price.
Mint condition.
I bought on eBay. There was a Beatles release that had a metal green apple that had a USB key for the stem.
Yeah.
I did buy that. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. There's one of my favorite YouTubers, Techmoan, who does a whole bunch of like not just celebrating vintage tech, but telling the stories of like old formats and how they came to be. He will come up with this format that existed only for like 11 months. And yes, the Beatles made this like made a version of the Sgt. Pepper album for this format you've never heard of, and because nobody bought it, it's like the $30,000 Beatles album. And it's like you have no idea how many formats there were out there until you see as historian start. Well, this one there was a fight between Philips and a German tape company, and they decided to both do the same format in different packages. And it's very, very it's like looking at an alternative reality, and it's also looking at collector's mentality. Because I'm very surprised that only 2,500 copies of that Beatles album collection. I would have expected that to be a little more expensive.
These I bought it because, well, it was cool because it's an actual metal.
Oh yeah.
But also this was a remix. It was done in 2009 and it was 24-bit. So this was the highest quality Beatles music they ever released, I think, and it was on that USB.
I think one of the most prophetic things ever said in any movie was in the first Men in Black movie, when Agent K said, "Oh, look at this alien technology of music. Looks like I'm gonna have to buy the White Album again." How many times are we gonna buy Abbey Road?
I bought the White Album. I'll tell you.
I'm about to buy Revolver for must be like the 9th or 10th time as soon as like the remastered edition comes up.
Yeah. Every time they do the 50th anniversary, I go out and buy it. So this must be 60th now. Wow. 62? No.
Yeah, we're in the 60s.
Yeah. Wow. I think that's everything. I know there's so much more to talk about, but I think we have done a pretty decent job of getting
There's
the
always
highlights.
next week, right?
There's always next week. I'm very grateful to you, Jason, because you have all the devices. You gave us a great review. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Next week, the financial. So once again, we will.
Oh, that's right.
We will be handing things over. I will be with a donut and and a soda.
Bring your donuts.
That's okay. Then I'll retire. I'm just going to sit here in December and just nod. That'll be it for me.
That's right. Apple's quarterly results are Thursday. I did want to ask, given that I just bought a MacBook, do you think that the new M2 MacBooks are any time imminent? Gurman's saying in the next few months.
Yeah, I think Gurman's hesitation there is maybe that he has old information that they were planning it this fall and now isn't 100% sure they will roll it out. I mean, I think there's a decent chance it's still going to happen in the next few weeks.
They've done it in November before.
Yeah. Just a press release, though, just like these.
These were already redesigned last year, right? So they don't. So all they have to do is put an M2 in it. Yeah,
there'll be new M2 Pro and
Bob's
M2
your uncle.
Max. Yeah,
I miss my 14. I have to say, I love the light, thin MacBook. Air, M2 MacBook Air, but I missed those ports, and
Yeah.
I just liked it a little bit.
I think the 15th. The 15th is probably about the outer edge.
Because then you miss the holidays.
Once you get into Thanksgiving, I don't think that they want to do an event.
No.
Maybe they have done them in December, but it's really rare. And the only reason they would do that
and the 8th is election
an
day,
event.
so it ain't going to be the election day. There'll be a lot of news out of that. It's not going to be November 1st. We'd know by now.
No, yeah.
So I think you're right. I think it has to be the 15th if they're going to do it on a Tuesday. It has to be the 15th.
And Apple historically, they try to really, really wind down and let people go home like in December. I mean, I'm not even joking. It's like something really disastrous has to happen. A deadline has to slip to most biblical proportions for them to do a big announcement in December, or for anything really big to happen out of Apple in December.
Yeah, I think the next time after November would probably be February.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right. So,
and usually March or early March.
I don't know what I'm rooting for.
The thing is, when you need hardware, you just need hardware.
I had to have it. I really had to have it.
I just have to buy more Mac Minis, and I'm just like, I want the.
Well, that's what we're waiting on. We want to do Zoom ISO,
Yeah.
and it requires an Apple Silicon. And we want to get it. We don't want to get a year-old Mac Mini. We want to get the new Mac Mini if there is one.
I will tell you that I've been doing tons of Zoom ISO tests, and you're not going to get any more out of a bigger. I have a 8 gig Mac Mini that's doing 8 SDI outputs.
Okay,
8 1080p
that was a question.
Outputs.
So we don't need more power.
It's at 40. It's at 8 with 8 outputs. It's like 45%. It's barely. It's just humming along and just pushing out. Well, and it's a mixture of silicon and the mixture of Zoom playing. They basically just read Apple's guide and then just wrote to it.
Right.
Like they're not making anything up. They're not doing extras. They're not getting fancy. They're just doing exactly what Apple describes to them. They're trying to get rid of the frames as they come in as fast as they possibly can and get them just straight out to the SDI board. SDI is the best way to go in this case, where it's the lowest impact on the CPU.
How much RAM do we need?
8 gigs is fine.
8 gigs is
really
fine.
not.
Well, you can get more, John.
You can get the 16s, but it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't.
It'll be
I'm
24 if it's
all the
M2,
tests.
so.
Yeah, all the tests that I'm doing are with an 8 gig, and this Friday I'm doing a test with 16 ounce just to see how it goes. So we'll take a look.
So November 15th, keep that date in mind. By the way, one of the reasons we want to move to Zoom ISO is it will really help with latency and overlap, over talking with our hosts.
And it looks nicer. It actually looks better.
Will it?
So it's the color and frame rate are better. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so it's got all the good stuff.
We're very excited about it. We have all the pieces in the puzzle. John's been bringing in his M1 Mac Mini just to play with it.
Are you using the Sonic box with a card or?
What did we?
Tomorrow.
A dongle arrives tomorrow, not the Sonnet box.
The Sonnet dongle.
The Sonnet dongle. That's for the AES or
it's for Thunder. It's a it's a
SDI?
Thunderbolt
Oh, okay.
additional NIC for the live
If I ever write a memoir like of my time like reporting on Apple, it will be called a dongle arrives tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Soon,
Dongle
coming soon to
also
Netflix.
rises. We will take a little break, come back, and get your picks of the week, guys. So get them together while I talk about, what a surprise, our TriCaster. We love the TriCaster. John, have you now mastered some of the amazing skills required to use some of the features that we never use? The TriCaster is so powerful. It's an entire live production system in a box. The most complete live production system on the planet, NewTek's TriCaster 2 Elite. Now, NewTek has a whole line of TriCasters. In fact, you can go to their site. But this is an incredible tool. That's what we're using at TWiT. It does everything you want to create content for the internet, for mobile. A lot of TV stations and networks use it too. Television distribution, a lot of churches, a lot of schools. Late last year, NewTek unleashed an updated version of the TriCaster 2 Elite, bringing in a host of new and much-loved features like their Live Call Connect, which supports Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, FaceTime as inputs to any production. In addition, selectable audio and video returns, which allows the TriCaster 2 Elite operators to view an audio return just like any other output, gives you a whole bunch of more flexibility and kind of a handle on what's going on. The all-new neural voice isolation tool cleans up your audio using AI. You can cancel or reduce background noise, automatically detect voices. It really makes a difference. We know audio is as important as video in these kinds of productions, certainly ours. Increased power, flexibility, and simplicity have driven some of the exciting new capabilities. They have variable support in macros. John's always making me new macros. I have now a QR code macro. I love that. The system offers a dynamic and powerful macro tool that allows operators to nest macros so you can get even more complex. The TriCaster 2 Elite now supports encoding of 3 channels in anything from HD to UHD at the same time, allowing greater power and flexibility to productions. They've brought the live panel builder into the TriCaster so you can create your own bespoke user interfaces, completely customize the presets. Quality and creativity are there too. You can, John Ashley's doing it right now, see the resolution and frame rate of every video source coming into the TriCaster. They've got an NDI Genlock tool so the TriCaster 2 Elite users can match outputs to a common sync pulse. You know about that. I don't have to explain why you would want to do that. That really makes a big difference. Perfect for remote workflows. You can send an alpha channel through one of the mix outs, which is really cool. You can use keying to feed graphics, real-time 3D creation tools, do post in live in effect. Since its arrival in 2020, the TriCaster 2 Elite has offered an incredibly powerful live production system. We only use 1/100th of the capabilities. It's so powerful. There's nothing it can't do. And these new updates, they put even more power in the hands of storytellers everywhere. TriCaster 2 Elite, totally transformative, setting new standards, better than broadcast. I think back to Tech TV and the crappy stuff we had compared to this that cost millions of dollars. The TriCaster 1 Pro, take a look at that. You may not need the 2 Elite. The TriCaster 1 Pro is fantastic for producers, content creators, and publishers. It's got future-ready capabilities. Live Call connects in there, 4K UHD switching, live streaming, recording. It's data-driven. Explore the latest in the TriCaster family. Visit go.newtek.com/twit-tv. There's an easy-to-use interactive guide there that'll let you go through it and figure out which TriCaster is right for you. Just press that big start button. Go.newtek.com/twit-tv. We could not do what we do without TriCaster, and we've been using TriCaster since 2008. It made Twit happen. It's the best choice I ever make. Go.newtek.com/twit-tv. Thank you, TriCaster. Now we go on with the shows with the picks of the week. Let's go from left to right. Jason, you can start with your pick of the week this week.
All right, I decided to get extra super nerdy here and recommend a thing called the Inkplate 6 Color. It is, and also beyond this product, I want to say I like the idea of products like this. This is a color e-ink display in a 3D printed case. You get it all together. I did a project where I took an e-ink display and I 3D printed my own case, and I had to figure out how to heat set screws and all these things. You know what's better is if I could just buy it with a case. So this is what Crowd Supply has done. It's all put together. You can take off the screws and order and put an Adafruit battery in it for like $20, and it lasts for like weeks, months, because and it's Arduino. So basically you plug into it. I did this on my Mac. You get the Arduino IDE, and you can, the simplest one, and this is a weather one. I'm going to just do it where it loads an image off my server. It wakes up every hour or 15 minutes or whatever.
You're going to have a kitty cat in every 15 minutes?
Well, you could. You get full color. It takes a long time to draw that on the screen, but it will draw it. So you could put it, it's got an SD card slot. You could actually just put an SD card full of photos and set it to cycle through those photos, and you can hang it on a wall because it's going to last for months probably with the Adafruit battery.
And it doesn't use any power to redraw.
Yeah, when it's asleep, it's really asleep, and it's not drawing any power. And yeah, so I'm going to load something off of a server in my house. I actually don't know what I'm going to do. And the development environment is a little bit to learn, but with help and Googling and looking at their forums, you can get it to do some remarkable things. And on super low power. And I just love the idea of this. In fact, this is what, now that we're coming out of that shortage, right? The chip shortage and the legacy nodes and all of that sort of thing. This is the kind of stuff I want to see, which is people taking an Arduino controller or a Raspberry Pi and a display and a 3D printed case and put it together and sell it as a product. I will pay you more if I don't have to 3D print it myself. Thank you very much. And so this is the start. This is $129 with the case. And it's fun. And I love these low power e-ink displays let you do digital stuff, even on battery with long battery life. And so you can actually hang it on the wall. My pal Dan Morin is using one to do a I'm on the air sign for his office door. And you just hang it there, right? You don't need any cables or anything. And every 5 minutes, I think it wakes up and pings the network and basically says, is Dan recording? And if it is, it puts up a sign. And if he isn't, it takes that sign down and puts something else up there. Super clever. I love e-ink displays. And I just love the idea that this company actually packaged the whole thing together like a product, because I don't need to 3D print it myself.
And that color's pretty good. I'm kind of surprised. It's really good.
Nice. It takes like 30 seconds to draw it.
Right.
But once it's done drawing, it looks great.
Yeah, and it's very solid because
it really does.
It's not refreshing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Inkplate 6-color with 3D printed enclosure. Crowdsupply.com/soldered or soldered for those of you in the UK.
Sure. They have other ones.
Inkplate 6-color.
But this one's 6 colors. It's beautiful.
It's
full color. Looks really good. I mean, even for photos, looks really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you, Jason. Oh man, I can't buy everything. I want to.
I know.
I really want to. I need an on-air sign. All right, your turn, Andy Ihnatko. What do you want to sell me?
No, it's free. It's
good.
Free.
I like you. I like you.
Again, man of the people. I hope I can count on your support come November. So DuckDuckGo, everybody knows about the browser extensions that gives you for privacy, about the search engine that is very, very privacy oriented, all the other work they do. They have been working on their own web browser for about a year now. It's been in private beta, and now it is in public beta for Macs. If you go to duckduckgo.com/Mac, you will see a browser that's not quite as full featured as Safari is, or Chrome is, or even Firefox is, but man, does it do a great job of being a browser which has privacy absolutely baked in, not as a collection of browser extensions that might fire off and not fire off. This is one that really guides you through the process of being aware of every single thing that websites do to identify you and to track you, and basically explaining what's going on as it's happening and asking, hey, do you want this to happen or not? It's based on, and so as part of its privacy and security, it's not based on Chromium. It's not based even on, it's actually based on WebKit. Because
interesting.
They said they chose WebKit because it gives them the greatest amount of control over what goes on in the browser with the least amount of cruft from Google. So that's definitely a really good thing. It has so it'll automatically do things like, again, block tracking, block cookies if you want, or let you stay logged in without having to necessarily erase cookies that don't necessarily compromise your security, but are a pain in the butt if they don't remain present. It even has a built-in like alternative YouTube video player. So if you click a link on a YouTube video, you can actually have it play using DuckDuckGo's browser's own internal video player, so that even the YouTube site is not necessarily seeing you or tracking you. I've been using it for about a week. I think it went into public beta a little over a week ago. I find that I can't rely on it as my main browser, although it does do a really good job of importing all your bookmarks and saved passwords from whatever browser you've been working on. However, it has earned a place as one of the browsers that I keep on my desktop, that if I'm just doing sort of random work on the web, or if I'm doing something where I really want extra privacy, but it doesn't necessitate something as drastic as going through a Tor browser. Like I've read about a mention of a certain car, and I wonder if that was, if I can't believe that person has a supercar like that. I wonder how much that car costs. If I want to find out how much that car costs without being put on a list of people who are looking at $120,000 cars, I will fire up DuckDuckGo for that. So it's pretty stable. Sometimes I find that it slows down like to a crawl, not on a regular basis, but sometimes I guess it's just not optimized. It's possible that this has all happened in the last day because I don't know if it's been updated for Ventura yet. But definitely worth downloading. Definitely worth having on your dock bar, and definitely worth following, as this could be like a good primary browser in maybe 6 months time or a year.
Wait a minute. I've just learned there are 12 miniature pumpkins hidden throughout TWiT. Please stay out of people's workspace. First person to find all 12 gets bragging rights and a $25 Amazon gift card. John, get out of here. Go on. You don't need to switch this show no more. Go look for some pumpkins. This is we've nominated Sebastian to be our party guy. And
don't fall for it. They're trying to trick you into engaging in a team building exercise.
If you want to participate, he says nothing needs to be moved in order to find them. So please do not move the pumpkins' objects or reveal their location, so everyone has a chance to look.
I found one pumpkin.
You found one immediately.
Just one.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say where.
Just take a photo of each one, and once you have a photo of all 12, claim your prize. It's a virtual scavenger hunt here in the TWiT studio. I take it there are none in here. I didn't see Sebastian sneaking any miniature pumpkins. Johnson Slanina says, I've been in here the whole time. What, since yesterday? Okay. Alex Lindsay, pick of the week.
So I was actually shooting with my brother last week, which I haven't done for a while. He's usually busy working on films, and we were scouting out where we were going to shoot the week before that, and it came up, and I just hadn't used this app for a while, and I reopened it because he uses it all the time. Like, he just opens it up and starts trying to figure out what he's going to use, and it's called Artemis Pro. And Artemis Pro is it's an iPhone app, and what it lets you do, I'll cut to this here. You can see through my camera here. And what you have is, so you'll notice here that this is the camera that I'm using. This is what lenses I want to use.
Oh,
I can define my. So if I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to use,
directors that carry around that little lens on a chain around their neck. This is like that.
And the company who makes this actually makes one for the iPad that you can put those lenses on if you want.
Oh wow!
But this is if you're scouting, and when I just hadn't been doing this for a while. And so this is where I'm kind of scouting through here. And so I can look through here and I go, oh, well, I want to go a little closer. Or if I want to, and these are the actual,
so you can set up the
actual
shot.
Focal length. So I can decide that. And then of course I can take a picture of that, and that's going to save that out so that I can send it to somebody and go, okay, well, that's what it's going to look like.
Wow.
This is what it's going to look like from here. And if you want to see like kind of everything, you can go in here and it'll show you these squares are every, at 135, it's going to be just this little bit, this little bit down here. At 14, it's going to be out here. And so you get a kind of a sense of, what all of those angles might look like. You can turn it off.
So
again.
Cool.
And so it's a really cool, and it has just, like all the lenses.
Wow.
So, so maybe not all the lenses, but I think a couple thousand lenses that are here, that you can go in. And so because it's really important that you're able to get the lens that you're trying to match.
It can actually give you the IMAX frame.
Yeah, I think you'd have to. Yeah, so I think that if we went in here, so you go to the cameras and you go to film, motion picture, and then you go to the 70 millimeter.
I saw the IMAX. Yeah,
you can say, well, that was the lenses, and so now what you can say is, I want the 8-perf 65. And we'll grab that, and then I'll go into the lenses, and we'll go to, let's say,
I see.
IMAX
you have to match the lens.
And then I'll say I want the prime lenses, and I want the, so I'll say done with that. Now that's
going to be the IMAX shot.
That's the frame.
Ooh.
That's the IMAX shot.
Nice.
With a 30 millimeter on the IMAX 8-perf 65 millimeter, and if I go closer,
ratio. That's so cool.
These are it's really useful when you're on set. And you're doing a scout, and you're saying, well, what is my frame going to actually look like, and what lenses do I actually need, and what's going to fix all of that? Because that's otherwise you're guessing or buying or renting a lot of extra lenses and everything else. And so you want to be able to define those things, and you can use those for storyboards, as well. So you can sit there and it's got some visualization for people in there and stuff like that as well.
Normally, I'd think this is going to be $1,000. It's only $30, which makes it affordable for anybody who wants to pick up people in bars. Yeah, I'm an assistant director.
Yeah, exactly. I'm simply scouting at this
I'm just
bar.
scouting locations. I thought you might be a good person in the background.
Yeah, so it really is a pro app. It's so.
Yeah, no, I think so.
Command's a pro,
and it comes on the iPad too. Well, 30's not that bad. I thought it would be a lot more. That's great.
Yeah, it's
That's great. Very cool. iPad or iPhone works even better with the new iPhone, I think. Thank you, Alex.
Great. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Alex Lindsay's at officehours.global every morning. It's a great place to find out what's going on in the world of video production and more. Today's show, getting the most out of office hours, is probably the first thing you should watch.
Yes, it's kind of an open discussion. We're bouncing around talking about it.
How do you get the most out of the show? But they cover
well,
so
it's
much
it's kind of a whole community. So it's really like thinking about all the different things you could do inside of the community, and so it's pretty good. And we have of course I'm also working with Michael Krasny, and we have a great guest this Friday.
I'm so
I think you'd be
excited.
excited.
I can't wait to hear this.
It's Leo Laporte.
Oh,
Leo Laporte's going to be on. Yeah, exactly. I hope you remember.
I do. It's in my calendar. So it's a Zoom call that I just call into, and not video, right? Michael's a audio guy.
It's video for the live, for the folks that are members. We have memberful like you do, and so for those folks, it's a live video, but we only post the
okay,
audio.
Good. Well, I'll have it. I'll get dressed then. And I will talk to Michael. And if you're not a member, well, then you might want to join.
Now, and I'll let you know, Leo, you can come in from home. You can also come to the office if you want. You just have to you have to warn me if you want to come to the office. We record it now from the pit. When you saw Light and Magic, they refer to the pit, and that's where Michael will be. And if you want to come down, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah.
You could do the interview in the pit. Yeah.
What? Yeah. In Marin?
In Marin. It's in San Rafael. So it's the old ILM stage. So we're and it's the pit, so it's a floated sound stage. Right now, the person who has it is actually a guitar player for a band called Stroke 9. So many of us will remember who.
That's pretty fancy.
So I'm working with John there, and so anyway, so we're now recording there just because I wanted to get good audio for Michael, and when we have people in the Bay Area,
it's pretty fancy.
Persuade him to come play.
Yeah, well, I might come down to the pit. I'll bring Lisa if I do.
Let me know.
Yeah,
let me know.
Yeah. Oh, how fun! Yeah. How fun! All right. And how can people hear this?
You can go to go to graymatter.show.
Graymatter.show. That's the name of the show. Yeah. It sounds like I'm gonna have to be smart.
I think you'll be able to hold your own. I've interviewed before.
I'm nervous.
It's going to be great, and it's really great. Michael is just such an amazing interviewer.
Long-time host on public radio in San Francisco.
He's only done
legendary
10,000 of them.
Yeah. Oh, Lonnie Barback, I know her, and Bill McKibben. Wow, Ken Burns. What the? Jeez. Nobody's going to want to hear me after all these guys. Andrew Fracknoy, good dear friend. I just talked to him all the time.
Michael's Rolodex is very deep.
John McWhorter. Oh, wow. Yeah. Amber Mack. I know her. Oh, it sounds like this will be a lot of fun. I can't wait. Yeah. He was a professor at San Francisco State, so he's very erudite. Yeah. And I've only been on a show once before, a long time ago. And I used the phrase culture wars, and I don't know. I think I maybe misused it. So I hope he doesn't remember that.
I think he's excited to have you on. So
no, he's not. Anyway, thank you. That's cool. Yep. Graymatter.show, GREYMATTER.
Yeah, and you can do E or A. I
Smart.
Both.
Good. Very clever.
So, we couldn't decide which one it was. I was like, I think I better get both. Yeah. So but it's E is Gray Matter with an E is technically the right one, but you can type either one in.
And officehours.global, and if you want to know more about that, go to that site. And if you want to hire Alex, because he brings all of this talent and skill, can bring it to your production at 090.media. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy Ihnatko. When will you be on GBH next?
Well, I was scheduled for Thursday at 12:45. I've been bumped by I won't name the governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Let's just say it's a governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Okay.
Who apparently thought that whatever they had to say was more important to the people of New England than my 20 minutes of saying, hey, I just got the new play date and I know it's got a crank on it. It's awesome. But next, so I've been rescheduled.
Did you get the new play date?
My phase 3 order.
You didn't
finally
even
came in
mention
last week.
this. Oh, I want this so bad.
Because I need to. I wanted to talk about it this week, but I have to play with it another week. I will give you a preview that you know how like the 20 or 24 games you get are by subscription. The first game they send you is kind of terrible.
Yes.
And so I was waiting. I mean, not terrible. It's just that it needs more instructions. And it's one of those like sassy games. Is you failed because you're an idiot. Like, no, I failed because you're not telling me what the game mechanics are or what I'm being scored for. But I got the second week's worth of games, and I'm going to play those. I'm going to basically.
So you have one too, Jason Snell?
I do. I've had one for a while. I've got all the games. It does get better. It
gets better.
Yep.
I've heard that. Which one is the bad game?
I won't say bad. I will say that it's
the surfing game is great once you figure out how to play it, but it took me forever to figure it out.
Exactly.
It's like Whitewater Wipeout.
It's just the mechanics seem to be very, very simple, and you think that, oh wow, I just did the successful thing, and then it just animates, oh wow, you dumped because you're an idiot. Like, no, I did. I thought I flipped up and I did the spinny, and then I came back down again with the board and the right. Okay, I guess you could help. Oh no, you're not going to help me. Okay, that's fine.
So that's funny.
Hey,
so they
look,
send
let's
you.
some stuff.
They could have just loaded up with all the games because they got them all. But no, they send you 2 games a week for 12 weeks or something.
But that's kind of exciting.
It's better.
It is exciting. That's one of the things that I will talk about next week. But I like the idea that like you're just getting you're getting 20 curated paid for games are being pushed onto the device 2 a week, and you don't know what necessarily. I'm not spoiling myself by looking ahead, but I picked it up like today and to see if I needed a charge, and gone, hey, look, you got 2 new games like already.
Wow.
So then tap the button, Wi-Fi installed them. Like, hey, look, those look like they're not going to make me want to throw this thing at a bus stop.
Dude, you're half-baked, man. You're half-baked.
Having all the games is overwhelming. It's actually really nice to only have 2 new games to explore every week.
That makes sense. Jason Snell, 6colors.com. You're going to want to check it out Thursday. Yep. Quarterly results.
Yeah, it's true. Also, like Alex, I have colors with a U in it. But it just redirects you to the one
That's
without
funny.
the U.
I thought
our British and Canadian friends.
I thought we should get
non-American friends.
I thought we should get twit.tv with an A in it, but then I realized no, that's a bad idea.
No, different TLD there.
So and it wasn't available as it turned out. You will be on many podcasts. Any you would like to mention?
Check out Upgrade that I do with Mike Hurley every Monday. We talk about tech stuff. I did a whole reviews debrief over there, and we have fun. We have a good time. And that's so relay.fm/upgrade.
Nice. Making more of technology. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Jason. And thanks most of all to all of you for joining us. A special thanks to our club members who make this all possible. And if you would like to have shows in the new year, maybe you'll want to join that old club. It is a good deal. Although ad-free versions of all of our shows is becoming less important as time goes by, you do get that. You also get, I think, one of the best features, which is access to the fabulous Club Twit Discord, and the Twit Plus feed, which has content we do not put out in public, including the great Hands-on Macintosh with Micah Sargent, Hands-on Windows with Paul Thurrott, the Untitled Linux Show with Jonathan Bennett, the GizFizz with Dick DiBartolo, and coming up later this week, Stacy's Book Club. Woo! We would love you to join. And it's easy to do. $7 a month, that's all it is. Just go to twit.tv/clubtwit and sign up today. And I thank you in advance. It really does help us out as we head into a winter is coming. Have I mentioned that? Into a chilly season for revenue. You're actually really is going to make a big difference, I think, I hope. But it will help if you join. Twit.tv/clubtwit. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful week. We will be back next Tuesday, as we always are, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. When is the clock? The clock goes forward Sunday?
It's after Halloween, right?
It's after
gonna be
Halloween.
The 5th of November.
So
next Sunday, because the Candy Makers of America.
That's right. Big Sugar.
Big Sugar wanted you to stay out later on Halloween, so we aren't changing until next Sunday. At that point, we will no longer be at 1800 UTC. I'll have to do some other math. Some math will be involved, and I will let you know. But right now, we're at 1800 UTC. Oh, no, wait a minute. No, we're not, because Europe went to summertime already. I mean, left summertime.
Yeah, but UTC is UTC. UTC doesn't change.
Thank you. We change, but UTC doesn't change.
Yeah, the Brits go off
BST
of GMT
changes.
to BST.
Yeah.
But UTC is always
That's right.
what it is.
So that's why I give you UTC, but we do actually move the show. UTC stays the same, but we spring forward or fall back, one or the other. And
falling back.
Yeah, we're falling back.
Fall back.
Yeah. Which means UTC
Get that
I'll
hour
have to-
back that
I'll
they
have to
stole from us.
subtract. It'll be -7 instead of -8 or something.
And I would like to take this moment to remind people how stupid daylight savings is.
I bitch about it every
Take this
year.
moment. We're so
twice a
close now.
year.
Like we almost have. There's
got
almost
rid of
enough
it.
people to just go. Why don't we?
You
Just,
know, though, Alex, the minute we get rid of it, everybody's going to bitch and moan that we got rid of it and say, it's so dark in the morning.
Yeah, heck with those guys.
If you're a farmer in America in 2022, you have much, much bigger problems.
Yes, that's true. 11 a.m.
Automated
Pacific,
tractors.
2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC, live.twit.tv. Chat with us at irc.twit.tv, or if you're a club member in the very special Discord chat. After the fact, on-demand versions of the show available at twit.tv/mbw, or on YouTube. There's a version there on YouTube. Sometimes the version on YouTube has less video in it, but it's there. And we also like to encourage you to subscribe in your favorite podcast player, because we want you to get every single episode. And if your podcast program allows for reviews, a 5-star would be much appreciated. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Now get back to work, because break time is over. Bye-bye.
The world is changing rapidly. So rapidly, in fact, that it's hard to keep up. That's why Micah Sargent and I, Jason Howell, talk with the people making and breaking the tech news on Tech News Weekly every Thursday. They know these stories better than anyone, so why not get them to talk about it in their own words? Subscribe to Tech News Weekly, and you won't miss a beat every Thursday at twit.tv.